Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 314, and we are live in the garage. It is pretty night here, Columbus, Ohio. We've had some crazy storms. Is that a good picture?
Oh, just Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, last night was fun.
Sorry, I gotta be on that gram, bro.
Gotta be on the gram. Last night was interesting. We didn't have it too bad here, but anyways, I know there's a lot of storms going through. Hopefully everyone, wherever you are in Ohio or elsewhere, you're okay. There's a lot of wicked storms going through, and I don't think it's over yet. So best wishes to everyone out there. We have Wes back in from Echo Spirits. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me back. I appreciate you guys wanting to have me in between you again.
Well, that's weird how you say it, but
Phrasing.
As soon as it
Came out your mouth.
I was like,
you didn't like it.
I didn't like the box I put that in.
No, especially if you listen to the audio only and you don't see what
exactly
they're looking at here. So that's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Have you ever heard that phrase? I don't like the box.
That you put yourself in?
No. It's like I don't like the box. So like, say you're in an argument or you're in a discussion or something, and someone says something to you, but they didn't present it properly. Kind of think about like you buy something from Tiffany's. It's a nice wrap box.
It is, yeah.
Well, buy something from Walmart, it comes in a
more of a plastic bag.
Yeah, so it's like I don't like the box.
Okay,
it's just kind of a term.
Not the presentation or what you've been put into it.
Right,
okay.
It's an easy, quick term to say. Like I don't like how that was presented to me. I love using that term.
But you presented
the points.
I know, and I didn't like my own box. Okay, I didn't like my own box.
I got it. Okay. We're off to a good start here. I like this.
You know what? Just get into it.
Yeah.
This isn't my first rodeo.
Mm-hmm. All right.
This is only episode 314, so it's none of our first.
I do want to thank our sponsors out there before we get into what we are drinking and smoking tonight. You guys, first and foremost, we had a couple of new Patreon members last week, which we appreciate that. And actually one new one and one updated one. So check that out, patreon.com/bourbon and BS podcast. Or if you want to do a one-time contribution towards a bottle or just in general, it's Venmo at Bourbon and BS is how you Venmo us, whatever it is. A couple pennies, couple bucks, whatever you guys want to do. Everything helps kind of go towards doing the show. Also want to thank Tinder Box at Easton. The featured cigar tonight is not carried at Tinder Box at Easton, but they do carry a lot of things from Forge, the Forge portfolio. This is a new one that was sent to us called Diesel Vintage Series Natural. So this is a new one we're going to be getting into tonight. And thank you to Forge for sending that to the podcast. But Tinderbox at Easton they carry a lot of Forge products, Alec Bradley, the Glory Cubana, several others. But check them out at Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio, along with everything else they carry. Also want to thank Altadis USA. We've got the Monte Cristo Espada, the original Espada there. This is made by Plasencia for Monte Cristo, but that's going to be the featured cigar for part 2. Thank you, Altadis. Got a new Altadis rep in the area, by the way. So looking forward to having him on the show in the near future. So we talked about that. So Altadis USA, you see behind us, you got Monte Cristo, Romeo, y Julieta. You got H. Upman, and you've got Aging Room among several others as well. But thank you for the continued support from them. And also BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver is available now. Gold is made by Plasencia also, and then the silver is made by Espinosa Cigars. And if you guys are looking for some swag, Nate's got that limited edition color, but at buyjack.com/bourbon and BS, you got the podcast shirt. It says, pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. I've got one of them. I don't even know if we do a red one of this one. I don't know. We've got a couple colors of the focus on the silver lining on there as well. So I can't remember. I think there is a red and silver one on there.
Well, I've got one.
So probably, yes. But this was, I think, from that first batch we did.
Oh,
before we started the BuyJack thing. But I'm pretty sure there's a red one on there too. But buyjack.com/bourbon and BS for any of the swag for the BS Cigar Company as well as the Bourbon and BS podcast. All right. Sorry to make you wait there, Wes. There's a lot of bottles. Yeah, there's a lot of bottles on here. The last time you were on, we were focusing on the first barrel pick that you guys had done with McClellan's.
Yeah.
And we had I can't remember if we talked about this on the air or if this was something that came up before or after the podcast. But what are these like? So you can see it on the screen there, right there, dead center, right in front of Wes. You've got what?
So they're all barrel proofs.
Okay.
The first one in front of me that has the red label on it, that one is last year's batch 23A. And we granted it access into the Engineer series, basically grandfathered it in and gave it its own little name. It is called Elemental. And it's a barrel proof bourbon. There are some still out in the market. So if you see it, grab it before they're gone. If you're into barrel proofs. And then the next three are batches 23A, B, and C. I'm sorry, 24A, B, and C.
Okay.
I said 23, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah. Can we get that on edit? Oh, that's right. Live.
Yeah, no. No one was
But you
listening.
corrected yourself.
No one was listening. It's fine.
Nice. Don't
worry. Austin's just going to put that out there on his page. And just
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's throwing me to the wolves. I love that guy. Anyways, 24 A, B, and C. And we're going to sip through these tonight. 23A. They all have these cute little merit badges on.
I see that. First one is a
kinda
fruit.
like-
Is a
kinda
fruit.
Boy Scouts.
peach.
Yeah.
It looks like peach.
Yeah, it's an apricot,
Okay.
but peaches. whatever.
What?
It's an artist rendition of an
Yeah.
apricot.
Yeah. So this is actually batch 24A, and it's called Apricot Cobbler. And it comes in at 118.5.
Okay.
And this is the one that, because you guys have tried that one before, but
Yes.
we're
Yes,
just gonna
we
kind
did
of
have that one.
just want to make sure I had all the Engineer series out here tonight.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
He didn't realize he was going to bartend tonight too.
Oh, always.
Such a
Any
professional.
day of the week, I will
Such a
pour whiskey
professional.
for my friends. All right. So the apricot cobbler. Yeah. These are blends.
Yeah.
Of course, our stuff. We're still young, still aging.
Mhm.
Not shy about where we're sourcing, but we got whiskey in here from Indiana and Kentucky.
It says it right there
Says
on
it right on the label.
the label on the back here.
Transparency, not going to hide it.
It's good.
It's like dead center.
It's
Do you-
smack dab in the middle of the back label
Right.
there. It says product of Ohio, distilled in Kentucky and Indiana. You do have a QR code, which I think is done fairly well. That's a tough one, I feel like, anymore to put on labels when I feel like it is a anything but let alone like a luxury item.
Right.
You know, like when you're doing some of this stuff. We've had some cigar manufacturers that have tried to do it, and it's very difficult to execute.
It is.
And I feel as though the coloring on this, it's not obnoxious. And I'm not saying that just because you're sitting here. I mean, this is, Nate, if you look at that, it's not overly large. The QR code, it looks like a QR code.
Yeah.
Right.
But the way you guys did it, says read about this unique batch, and then it has a QR code there.
Yeah.
That people, at this point, day and age, like you just assume you point your camera at that, right?
Yep, and it works. My camera's like, I don't want to do it tonight, so I'm not going to force it.
All right, so apricot. You say apricot or apricot?
I say apricot.
I do too. Nate, are you an A or A?
Apricot.
Soft A. I think that's the right way to say it. Jess. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Everyone
It's
fast.
not ape.
Some people call it
I know.
apricot. Okay. All right, moving on.
Yeah.
That's important information to me. I like the name of the next one. I just saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah. The next one's good. I like the next one.
The name. So, is this a misleading name, or is this something when someone sees this? Are these available just at the bottle shop, or is this available across?
They're
the
available
state?
out in the market. They're only in a couple stores right now.
Okay. They're new. They just have been rolling out, right?
Yeah, they've just been rolling out.
Yeah.
Yep.
The name. So, are we expecting apricot? You're not going to tell us.
I didn't choose this name.
Okay.
I mean, the next one you're definitely not going to taste what the name is, but
There's definitely that fruit up front, and then as soon as it goes down the hatch, there's a nice brown sugar bomb. Yeah, kind of like that little crumble you get sometimes on a dessert.
this one definitely fits its name.
Yeah, that's what was it again? Apricot
Cobbler.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, to circle back to the labels and the label color, I really have always liked that kind of label look because it doesn't really look. It
Talk about the whole.
Yeah, it stands out. The color of this label, like just lighter than khakis.
Yeah, it's tan, light tan, right?
It gives a vintage feel. I like that vintage feel that it has to it with the copper around it.
Yeah, it's not gold leaf; it's copper leaf, like on there.
Yeah,
yeah. And this is new branding, right? That's what we talked about last time, right?
Yes.
This is a new scheme on the bottle.
Correct.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
You guys started doing this type of labeling when you started putting out the bourbons, and then you've updated the rye.
Correct.
Are the rums still going to be carrying the original?
For now.
Okay.
For now,
the rum and the Geneva.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and the house vodka as well.
Oh yes, that too.
All right, so this bottle in particular, apricot cobbler, it does have some of that sweetness to it. With a little, I mean, you said sugar?
Brown sugar.
Yeah.
Like as soon as it went down the hatch and hit the back of my tongue there was just this blast of brown sugar.
It's very enjoyable. And I think it actually drinks below the proof.
It does.
Of the 118 and a half.
I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, most of Echo products, when it comes to our whiskeys and our ryes, our bourbons and ryes, they do drink below the proof.
Yeah, this is very drinkable, which to some could be a little tricky and dangerous because it does not drink to close to 120, in my opinion.
Right.
Rather smooth, not much heat, a little bit. Trying if there's something else there besides. I mean, you have something like that apricot cobbler, and that's all you think. Like my brain is just basically focusing on that, but there's definitely something else there.
Right. I definitely think going with the direct name on that was, it's all right.
Are you getting kind of that mint or eucalyptus on it?
It's a little bit of that. A little bit of that. Yeah. So this series, though, Engineer Series, there's obviously a background to why you're calling it Engineer Series. Can you explain exactly why that is to the listeners?
Yeah. So of course it's not what we have distilled. So we're taking the time to sit down and go through and do our own blending. And we are engineering a whiskey that we think is going to work well out in the market.
Okay.
And what's the production amounts of this?
That I am going to keep proprietary at the moment.
Okay.
Fair.
Is there a possibility you can try to duplicate this, or is this considered limited edition?
This is considered limited edition. I have absolutely no intentions of duplicating any of the flavor profiles.
Okay.
I want every batch that comes out to be different.
Okay. Very good. But this is an ongoing series at this point. This is
going to be an ongoing series.
Okay. Yes. And this is the first, 3 plus 1. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else with this one? Is there a reason? I mean, when you're doing this process with you guys, for those that aren't familiar with Echo 118.5, are you going through, is it basically how many different barrels are you working with for each of them? Does it vary? Are we to believe that Kentucky and Indiana, it's like half and half, or is this it's
not half and half?
So it's just basically you're utilizing several barrels and
these
blending.
3 batch blends are a total of 6 barrels.
6 barrels, and you've utilized them differently in each of them.
Correct.
Okay. Or up to 6 barrels per bottle, or per
6
total on all 3 of them.
On all 3 of them.
Interesting.
I wanted to keep the numbers as lower.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. Not going to do a 20-barrel blend on one bottle.
Well, I didn't know if these were like completely separate projects. You know what I mean? Like if you're utilizing certain barrels for the apricot, certain for the next 2.
It's a blend of.
That's nice.
Yeah. So there are 6 barrels. Each batch has some of these 3, some of these 3, some of these 3, but they do kind of cross over. Some barrels cross over into all 3 of them.
Nice. Is that why, and I'm just trying to pick apart the way you did this, is that batch 24, are those batch of barrels?
24, of course, for the year,
Okay.
2024, and then
Okay.
batches A, B, and C.
Got it. Interesting.
Yep.
Nice. And you guys do all the engineering or blending here
Yes.
at your location.
Yep. We sat down and had a really good time one day.
Testing out a lot of different blends, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes time because you're sitting down and, using the eye droppers and measuring everything out and going, nope, that doesn't work. Or that works. I like that. And then debating between everybody, seeing that all of us have different palates, and then coming to kind of a common ground of, okay, what's going to work in the market?
We were at a tasting, and I'm just saying this kind of out loud, thinking about it. What would be a cool thing if you were able to do it, maybe even at the distillery? Nate and I went to a tasting with another brand, and they had a blend, right? But then what they were doing were they started it off with the individual barrels, like straight from that. Like, so you'd have like 6 samples is a lot, especially because the way they did this, I don't like the execution the way they did it, because they were like really small pours, and they're like, okay, take a sip of this and then pour a little bit of this into that. And like, you're like, I can't even, like, there's nothing left. You know what I mean? It's too little.
It was like
not trying to get
ounce.
drunk off of this, but it's like literally by the time you got to it, you're literally like sipping to a point where it touched your tongue because you couldn't even really like drink any of it without running out. But it would be interesting. I like it. We're doing an event with a Tinder Box, actually, where you're smoking just one seed, and then you're doing another seed. So like they're small little cigarillos almost, and they're called fumas, where it's just like the one is Corojo tobacco, and you're smoking that, and it's just to get like that ingredient in the blend.
Yeah.
And then you smoke the Criollo, and then you do that, and then these are both in the major blend that you're smoking tonight. That's something that I don't know if you guys would ever do that, but I know I'd be interested in doing something like that with a distillery like yours.
Kind of like deconstructing what we did.
Yep.
You literally do. Yeah. You're like, all right, so these are the 6, or if you do even like 3 of the major, like, maybe
here's the 3 barrels.
You look at your percentages, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, these 3 are the major ones in this percentage wise. So we'll do straight samples of 1, 2, and 3. And it was broken down in a great way. You kind of take a sip of it, and it's like, talk about what you're tasting and all that stuff. All right, set that down. Try number 2. Okay, set that. Talk blah blah blah. 3, and then if you have like 1 ounce pours or whatever you want to do, take a sip. Don't finish it, and then it's like, all right, now pour 2 into 1. Take a sip, and you kind of get to that point where, and then it's like, all right, now all 3 of those are in this barrel or the blend that we're trying tonight.
Nice.
It was a cool idea, and I'm
cool
kind of spitballing with you because I'm looking at this already, and like my mind's turning. I'm like, this would be cool with your engineer series. It's like, hey guys, this is kind of how we started.
Yeah.
And you bring in the consumer to be like, oh, okay, now I understand a little bit more when they say they're blending all this stuff. So
yes. Yeah.
it's cool.
I can always see when your gears start going. You get a look in your eye.
Like there's just darkness in my eyes.
I wouldn't say darkness. It's more like curiosity. The kid just found a lighter.
Yeah. Lights are on. You're not sure what's going on inside. There's activity, but I don't know if it's good or bad. All right. Do we want to move on to the next one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I poured mine a little heavy, and I'm just going to sit on this one for a while. And trust me, I've had all of these numerous times. Yeah. All right, so the next one here, we're gonna go with batch 24B. This batch got named because I was like, I think this would go well in this situation. And this is the test of that to see if I'm right, because I don't smoke cigars. But we named 24B porch cigars because while I was drinking it, I go, I just feel like this would be a great cigar to pair, or a great bourbon to pair while you're having a cigar out on the front porch. Yeah. So, gentlemen, please tell me if I'm right or wrong.
You are so foolish.
I will eat crow if I have to live on social media.
Palate, Steve?
A little bit. I'm gonna cigar it first here.
I will take full responsibility and blame if I'm not right because I do not smoke
I'll do-
cigars.
You named this one. You did not name the first one.
Joe pulled the trigger on the name.
The first one or the second one?
All of them.
All of them,
to be
okay.
honest. But this one came from a comment I made. Later, I will find out if it goes well with secondhand cigar smoke.
What's the proof on this one?
They're all right around. Oh, this one's 116. They're all right around that. Close to the.
Well, so given the circumstances, it's extremely smooth.
Correct. That's what I.
It doesn't have the brightness of the last one. And honestly, so Nate, when you said that kind of, you say mint eucalyptus, this finish is not like that.
No,
Not like that at all. This is, it's not a negative, more subdued.
Mm-hmm.
At least, again, not having it on a fresh palate.
Isn't it a mellow night out on the front porch smoking a cigar with some whiskey?
Mm-hmm.
It can be. No,
That's easy drinking.
Yeah, like right up front, like it doesn't blast your palate with flavor. It's just smooth. Like it's just this really soft, almost like a honey and vanilla type flavor profile. But it's not like trying to grab your attention. It's just subtly there, and just sits kind of soft on the palate and oily. But yeah, and
Did you go back to the cigar after sipping on it?
I did that the second time.
Okay.
Which sometimes going, especially something high proof like this, doing the whiskey and then going to the cigar, that cigar can sometimes reignite some of the spice notes on your palate, and this one doesn't do that. So, but there's that lingering alcohol effect on the tongue. Like after a while, like it's still kind of like I can still feel it there, even though it's long gone. The whiskey is no longer in my mouth, but there's like that lingering tingle on the tongue.
I think for me, it's a little cleaner finish. I get what you're saying there, but for me, it's a little cleaner finish. It's interesting going from the cigar to this bottle. The first sip, honestly, when I say subdued, it was fairly subdued.
By comparison,
By comparison, for sure. But going from the cigar to that, and then I went back to the cigar, and it brought out, it wasn't as much sweetness from the cigar. It was almost like a salty sweetness. I don't know if you got that at all, Nate. Swallow.
I'm not
experiencing it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to rush the experience here.
With wine, like let it sit there and actually let it coat.
Let it happen. All right, go on. I got a little bit of like this salty sweetness from the cigar, so it actually impacted the cigar a little bit more. The apricot cobbler, I feel as though stood up to the cigar, but didn't really give me a whole lot of
nothing new.
It wasn't complimentary. It was more just like, okay, this is a cigar and this is the whiskey. That's not a bad thing, but it was like one of those that they stood up to each other. This one's starting to kind of get in the mix with each other a little bit. Did it change the cigar for you at all, or am I having a different experience here?
No, it did. It's going to sound weird, but you talk about that salty sweetness, and I did whiskey and then to the cigar, and it reminded me a little bit of Mil Diaz with that Peruvian tobacco in it. How that has kind of that salty characteristic to it, which I like. I love that cigar. But yeah,
and I won't do that with every cigar.
No.
Of the forged cigars that they sent to us, I kind of went with this diesel for the reason that it's that diesel vintage, but it's a new one with it's the Ecuadorian wrapper, so more of a natural wrapper. It's more medium body. I was like, I don't want to try to go too crazy heavy with this. I don't, cigar wise. So I'm not sure how this would pair with all cigars, obviously, but with something pretty straightforward, medium.
If I've learned anything from you guys, cigars are just like whiskey.
Absolutely.
There's a huge variation.
Absolutely.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, yeah. that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand. You know, you can sit there and have the same recipe year in, year out, age things the exact same amount of time, put stuff the exact same spot in the rick house, but not, your temperatures while it's in barrel are going to fluctuate differently than in previous batches. So things are going to age in barrel a little different.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have to think back to the grains as well.
Yeah.
Like when those grains are growing, the season could be different than the season before. So one corn crop, it could have been a wetter season. And so that's going to impact the flavor of the corn, or it could have been a drier season and that's going to have an impact. And those kind of climate variations can have an impact in the final product.
Right.
So that's why, stuff can change over time.
So you're saying like the alcohol kind of just sat on your palate and the cigar kind of like reignited it for you. And for me, it's that spicy feeling. Like for me, it was black pepper.
With this one?
Yeah. It was black pepper.
Which I think complements what we're doing here with the cigar. Yeah. This is interesting.
You just gave the QR code?
I did the QR code.
All right.
You guys gave a lot of information here.
Well, yeah. Yep. Again, transparency.
Yeah.
What does it have on there, Steve?
So for this porch cigars, you got they're all March 2024 here. So you have that. You have the proof, 116. So you've got 33% MGP product.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying there's 6 barrels. I mean, are you disclosing it's 3 and 3? So 3 MGP and then 3 of the Bardstown, or is it just there's a mixture? But all of this blend, 33% is coming from from the undisclosed MGP barrels.
Yes.
With the mash bill of 51% corn, 45% wheat, 4% barley, 6 years. Now, 6 years the average, or they were all 6 years?
6 years are the MGP barrels.
Okay, got it.
Correct.
And then the other 66% of the makeup of this is coming from Bardstown.
Bardstown Distilling Company out of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
60% corn, 36 rye, 4 barley, 4 years. And there's a total of, according to this, 374 bottles. So you're coming in at 300 and call it 370-ish for all 3 of these batches are available, according to your website.
Well, it didn't end up on my shelves.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's what you guys are saying here. So that is a very limited quantity.
Yes, limited quantity.
Definitely check it out. Don't sit on it if you're listening tonight, or if you come across this. Obviously, just
the easiest place to find them is going to be at our distillery.
Right.
But as we open up and get them out to other stores, which kind of takes time, they will be out there.
What do these run at the distillery?
They are $49.99.
Wow. For a barrel proof, that's pretty sick.
About $20 below market.
Yeah, it sure shit is.
Yeah, next Wednesday on my day off, I might have to run errand.
And honestly, people, I've had the question, why are you priced lower than most barrel proofs? Well, it gives you a little bit of incentive to support local.
Well, yeah.
It's very common that everything made in America is a lot more expensive. Well,
so is labor.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason.
Exactly. So, we have the opportunity to make sure that we can have a price point that fits and works and is enticing with a product that is well worth, I feel, the money spent.
No, I mean, I think, that price point, I think that's a killer price point for anything barrel proof.
Correct.
These days.
It's also killer for anything local distillery, I feel like.
Right.
You can kind of go about that, I think, in different ways, right? So you can go about that, in my opinion. You can go about if you guys are doing it yourself, it's local. You guys are a smaller operation. This is not mass produced. So typically $50, $49 is kind of, I think, the new average of obviously the kind of the lower end. When you're sourcing it, you see people with a little bit higher price tag for sourcing stuff because they're paying for it, right? And then you got the manpower, like you guys are doing, to be bottling it, to be blending it, and all that stuff. So not only buying the barrels, you're now putting stuff in as far as man hours. So
and just to put it in
49
perspective,
is aggressive.
you know, we're dumping them, we're blending them, we're bottling them 4 bottles at a time by hand. All of them are getting labeled by hand, corked by hand, top straps by hand, and then the little merit badges on the side are all done by hand. And we have our production team to thank for that. Our production team does all that stuff, even boxes it up, packaging, taping it, the outside labels on the boxes, and yeah, I'm really proud of our production team. His name is Carl.
His name's Carl.
It's a great team. Team Carl.
Yep. Yep. So
Where's Jonathan Herring with
Joe. This is Carl.
with a K?
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. A couple weeks ago, I was at a distillery in Kentucky when we were on vacation. I went to one distillery, and it was the only distillery in Kentucky I actually wanted to go on that trip.
Oh, Buffalo Trace?
No. Ironically, a few miles away from there. But no, not that one. But when you do the tour at this one, they literally thief your sample straight out of the barrel into your dram.
Nice.
And then if you want a bottle, you know, they have 2 sizes, pint or a fifth.
Mhm.
And you sit there and like, I want to do a fifth. And they just hand you an empty bottle and you thief it straight out of the barrel into your bottle.
Now, which place was this?
Whiskey Thief.
Okay.
Used to be called Three Boys Farms.
There you go.
Yes.
They were so we had when we had Sean Anderson on back in the summer of 21 on his way up because he's in Tennessee. He actually stopped there and he bought 3 bottles, 2 of their bourbons, 1 of their ryes. He was gracious enough to let Steve and I each have whichever one was our favorite, and then we drank the other bottle the rest of the night. And they're $150 a bottle. But right before, it turns out right before Sean came up, they'd actually been purchased. So it was in the summer of 21, but they didn't rebrand or change the name until October of 22.
Okay.
So it used to be called Three Boys Farms. It's now called Whiskey Thief. But yeah, once you fill the barrel, you then take it over to the lady at the counter, who's the same person who thieved your samples. And she puts the plastic label on the bottle. She puts the plastic over top and uses the heat gun and melts it to the bottle and shrink wrap
Awesome.
it.
Cool experience.
Yeah. It was a
Sounds
cool
like.
experience.
I think part of the price of that one you're paying for the experience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So leads me into the next topic for Echo. So we have a few different experiences that you can do
Nice.
at Echo. You can come in and do a standard tour and get toured around the distillery, sample some of the products we have. You can opt for a tour where you actually get to thieve whiskey from one of our barrels.
There you go.
So we just swapped barrels for that. We have, I think, a double oak and a Queen Share rum. You can choose between one of the 2.
That Queen Share rum's
Very cool.
Yes. And then the last experience we have at Echo is a bottle your own bourbon. And
Similar to what he was saying.
Yep. But we have, and I think you could check it out on our social media. If Joe hasn't posted a picture of them yet, he needs to. But we have these.
You
He's not calling anyone out here.
Not calling
said he's
out.
your boss.
I'm not calling out my boss at all.
This is just pure
Just calling out my
conversation.
boss.
Oh, you are.
Because if there's one thing Wes never does, it's never call out his boss.
So we have
So
these fillers now
yeah,
attached to the barrels, and
it's coming down from the barrels up top, right,
Yep.
and then down. Okay.
Yep.
And it fills up the tube,
it does
and then you
then
hit
you
it, and that's the
close
perfect
off
measurement.
close off one valve, turn on the next, and it gives you an even 750.
Wow.
That's cool.
They're beautiful too.
Yeah, that is cool.
They are beautiful. So again, you get a tour of the facility.
What-
They are on every other Saturday. So
Okay, I was gonna ask, well, what are the hours that?
yeah, every other Saturday. They start at noon,
Okay.
and
Found on the website, right?
Yep, you can find the link through the website. Usually Eventbrite is where we book.
Nice. Okay.
Everything.
Easy to purchase.
Yeah.
Reserve it.
Yep, they make great gifts. They're just fun experiences. Good date night or date afternoon, date lunch date.
Well, it could be cool too for not to be sexist completely, but like for like a bachelor party or
Yeah, that's what I
locally,
was thinking.
you know, you could set up a tour with a bunch of your friends and stuff, and do that, and then you could bottle it and write on the labels like this.
We don't just stop you if you want to buy an extra bottle or two. We'll let you bottle a few of them. Go for it.
That'd be cool.
So right now we have a double oak for that, and then we have a honey barrel. So we had a local honey company come in, take one of our used barrels, put honey into it, aged it for a little bit, dumped the honey out, brought the barrel back, and we put
bourbon
whiskey back in it.
Bourbon honey.
Mm-hmm.
There's bourbon everything now these days.
Yeah.
And then you guys in the distillery world are like, yeah, give it back to us.
Yep. Let us dump.
And now we're gonna have
let's dump some more stuff in there.
Different type of finish on this thing here.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. No, I like the whole thing too, where if you have like a celebration, not to stick it, because we had a buddy that we went on a distillery tour.
Yeah.
Locally, it wasn't Echo, but it was another one where like you did it as like a bachelor party or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be a cool function to do it, and then you say you do a bottle or two, and then have it at your wedding.
Right.
You know, be part of that experience, and you could like have some sort of like print. Not maybe you guys don't print a label necessarily, but you could do like have it written down on there for the wedding reception or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. Nice.
And if you just want to do a barrel pick for your wedding, come see me.
Yeah.
You want to pick a half barrel for your wedding?
Is...
Gotcha. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Live call out.
Your centerpiece is going to be a whiskey bottle. It's a hell of a centerpiece.
Yeah, and
please take it home with you.
I would RSVP.
Absolutely. Yeah. Put that in the invitation. It's going to be 100% attendance there. Yeah. And Joe, for that picture you showed us, check out the social media. Maybe not right now, but soon. It sounds like it's going to get up on there.
I think, did you say Joe left the chat?
No, he just says, fine, calling me out on live. So okay. He may have left the chat. Maybe he had to, log out to be able to post that. I don't know. Not sure.
One can hope.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So number three.
Number three.
Or C, letter C.
Yep. Is 24C. This one is the Woodsman. It's got a little nice hatchet.
Nice. Okay.
On it. But for me, when I think about drinking whiskey, I'm a big outdoors guy. So I definitely, when I go camping, I have whiskey with. I always do.
I feel like a lot of activities you have whiskey with you.
I may or may not have had some whiskey.
Pigeonhole you there, but
I took I took a bottle of bourbon with me to Kentucky on vacation.
Yeah.
And there was one night I actually sat outside and had some cigars on that trip, and I opened that bottle. I opened that bottle while just sitting outside, smoking some cigars, and
your mouth open, breathe in your mouth and your nose.
Good night.
Still got some.
Yeah.
It's got some punch on the nostrils.
It was one of my buddies. He used to be on the tasting panel for Buffalo Trace, and his name's Logan. Really awesome guy, wealth of knowledge. But he taught me one night. I was down there. He goes, swirl it around, get in your glass, then blow your glass out.
Yeah, I've done that for a while now.
And he goes, when you put your nose in, keep your mouth open, breathe in your nose and your mouth at the same time. And he says it allows, when you blow the glass out, it gets all that ethanol that's sitting right in there out of there.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to kind of pull more flavor out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like working at the wine shop, a lot of times when they're sniffing wine, their mouth's closed, but that's because, the wines that we're tasting are usually between 10 and 15% alcohol.
Yeah. They're not elbowing you in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
You all the ethanol.
Yeah. You do that with some barrel proof stuff. It's going to burn your nostril. That's why
that's how you get rid of hay fever.
Clean them sinuses out.
Medicinal.
Yep. So this is the Woodsman. So like I said, I may or may not have even taken whiskey to my son's Boy Scouts camp out.
See that?
That's how you started the fire, right?
I'm an adult. Don't worry about it. As Lil Wayne said, don't worry about what's in my cup.
That's right.
But this is one that reminds me of like what I would want to drink being out in the woods. It just rained. calm down. I'm able to go out, sit in my camp chair, light the fire, and this is what I'm drinking.
It's definitely so. Again, going down the line here, you're walking away from that porch cigars. This definitely, to me, has a bit more of a punch to it.
Yeah,
it's a little punchy, in a good way. A little bit brighter than the last one. Not as fruit forward as the first one. Not just because it's called that.
No, this one definitely is not fruit forward. This one is
I think
more of the earth tones.
To me, this
but
one,
not like it's not like drinking dirt earth tones.
No, it's not.
But it's definitely like, okay, like I get nature in this one.
I get nature. You get nature out of it, or when you drink this, you get nature.
It's mosquito
Both.
repellent.
Okay.
Is yes an acceptable answer?
Absolutely, it is.
Yes.
Always, yes. Yes. Nate, what do you think of this one?
I think this one's kind of a combination or go between of the first two. Like initially,
Shocker, right? We told them about the blend.
but no, like when I take that first sip, it like the way it hits my palate, it's kind of like the second one amped up a little bit on the initial palate, on the initial taste, but then the finish is more subdued than the first one. So it's ramping up the first part of the second bottle and then decreasing the finish from the first bottle. So it's kind of in that middle ground of those two bottles, but yet still tastes the flavor profile that's there is different. Like it doesn't have that apricot
stone
to
fruit. Yeah. It
Yeah.
has stone fruit notes. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't have like 24B. I got some leather out of that one.
Yeah.
For my palate. I got some tobacco out of that one as well in my palate.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you probably didn't because you're smoking a cigar.
Sure. But it probably it complemented it fairly well though as well.
And that's what I felt is
Mhm.
that, this would be, it has those kind of elements. Whenever I taste tobacco and leather, that's, I think about sitting between you guys getting secondhand smoke while drinking my whiskey.
Adds to the ambiance.
I'll tell you, 24A, I think does go well with secondhand cigar smoke.
There you go.
So if you have a cigar smoker in your life and you want a whiskey to enjoy while they're having a cigar, all three.
At least 24A, right?
At least.
This one does also impact the cigar. The salty sweetness that I said from the 24B, not there. It's not there anymore. It definitely changes the overall experience between the whiskey and the cigar. I'm trying to place it. Joe mentioned something. Said should have named 24A secondhand. I don't.
No.
Most people are going to think of cigarettes. I don't know if that's going to sell as well.
Yeah, no.
This one tastes like secondhand smoke. Like
Even if you
what's
put
B taste like?
even if you put the
Porch
picture of
cigar.
even if
Shit.
you put a picture of a cigar on it, people would still think it was a cigarette.
Right.
He said pine. What do you say?
Pine Grove.
Pine Grove. I mean, it does. I'm trying to search for something because it's called the Woodsman.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to say woody or like
Oak.
cedary or oak. I'm trying to
That's why I described it as like
Campfire.
you're out in the woods after it rained and you're getting.
I get that with the
you're
rain.
getting
You get all
nature.
those. Yeah, everything smells like all the smells are out there now that you have a little bit of the dampness and everything else. But it is that. And again, trying not to say anything woody. It's tough to describe for me. There's definitely some of that kind of
You get the oak.
cedar and oak type stuff. Again, smoking a cigar with it, so I'm sure it's a little bit different for those that aren't smoking a cigar. When I say it's punchy, it's not a negative term. I just think that it's got a little bit of it grabs your palate. It shocks it a little bit,
Mhm.
even after like this is a third small pour. So in this sampling, I mean, it definitely amped it back up, even though it's one proof more.
117.
17.5. Yeah.
Yeah, so proof 1.5 proof higher. It's not, but it's not as smooth, but it's not a bad, you know what I mean? It's not like hot or anything like that.
And that was that's what this project is to make it vastly different.
And it's amazing you can do that with the same barrels that you're blending with,
Right.
right? The percentages of what you're doing.
It just goes to show that, the creativity, like I mean, while we sat down and did this, there are blends that all of us did where we took a drink of it. We're like, oh no.
Yeah. When people sit there and go, oh man, trying and sampling whiskey must be a bad job. It's like, well, sometimes you get blends that are terrible and you can't wait to spit it out.
Yep. And like, I know there are people out there going, they're just blending bourbon. You don't just throw things together.
No.
Yeah.
You don't at all. And I learned that early on because I started off with scotches and, I did single malts. Then I started going to blended scotches and learning about that process of how they're blending scotches. And this is,
there's a lot. Yeah. Well,
that's 20 plus years ago. Learning about this sort of stuff.
It just popped in my head.
Sure,
This is going to be a play on words, but it kind of echoes what, like the conversation that we had recently with Trip Stimson. From Barrel. So he's their, what's his official title again?
I forget.
Yeah, something crazy about senior whiskey engineer or whatever. But like when they do all their batch bourbons, every single batch has a different flavor profile. And sometimes there's 6-8 different bourbons that are in each one of these batches, and they're ranging from 5 to 9 years. Some of the earlier ones were even hitting that 15, 16 year in some of those. But you can't just sit there and just, all right, let's just take equal parts of all of them and put them together. Like you got to find out what works and which of those barrels has a flavor that you really want to accentuate. Like, you want that one to kind of stand out a little bit. So maybe there's more of that barrel and everything else. Like, who was the other person that we brought on besides Trip before?
I don't know, we've had 300 and some odd episodes.
I know. Well,
from Barrel.
From Barrel. But like there have been some of their batches in the past where they have found either a barrel or a blend that they used as the core for that batch and then added stuff that complemented that flavor profile. But they found a flavor profile that they really enjoyed, but they wanted to add stuff to give it a little bit more character as well as increase the volume of production without taking away or diminishing the core that they want to highlight.
So with this one, according to, again, when you scan that QR code, it goes to the same page for all three of them, or all four of them, really.
Yeah.
So this has, like I mentioned in the last one, you're utilizing two of the similar mash bills, or two of the same mash bills. So 33% was at MGP again. 51, 45 wheat, 4 barley, 6 year. Then you have the one we had in the cigar porch, or I'm sorry, the porch cigar. You have the Bardstown, 60, 36 rye, 4 barley, 4 year. And then another third is another Bardstown mash bill, 75 corn, 21 rye, and 4 barley, also 4 years old. So, I mean, clearly it's going to be different just in the simple fact that you added the other mash bill there, right? So you're going to get something else with it. And that's a high corn, 75% corn in that other one.
Yeah.
And high rye.
Yep.
Although it looks like kind of, I'm looking at this, the Bardstown stuff is kind of high rye content here.
Correct.
On all of them.
Yes.
I'm just sorry. I'm everyone out there. I'm looking at. You did use this is the Elemental, which is not the same 6 barrels, right? Because that was before being grandfathered in.
2023.
You've got 50% mash bill of that high 70. It's an MGP 75 corn, 21 rye, 4 barley, 3 year, and so younger stuff here, and then 50% Kentucky Artisan Distillery.
Yes.
Is that the name of the distillery?
Yes.
Okay. 60 corn, 36 rye, 4 barley, 2 years. So
off camera, I'll tell you who sources from them.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's not local either.
With these, the new 3, the 24 series, if you will.
Yeah.
You've got all 4 to 6 year, according to this. Is that right? 4 to 6 year. A little more age on these.
A little more age on them, correct.
But throwing in that the high 75% corn on that 33% in this one, is that why it kind of like punches it up, you think?
I do.
Okay.
I absolutely believe that's one of the reasons it gives it that profile.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so. But yeah, you still have 21 rye and 36 rye on those 2/3, which also gives it, I think, a little bit call it the woodiness or the spice to it. I think that's probably coming out of like that rye part of the mash bill in there. Nate, Wes, start with you.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Do I have a favorite?
Yeah, of the three.
No.
They're all your.
Who's your least favorite child here?
Who's my least favorite child here?
They can't hear you. They're not listening.
Wait, my actual kids.
No.
Oh, okay. Because I can answer that easy.
That's probably easier than that's terrible, first of all. But yes.
Just kidding. Where am I?
So of these, the apricot cobbler, the what was it, porch cigars, and then the woodsman. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I really don't, because all three of these catch my attention in the right ways for what they are.
Okay.
And
just unique.
And that's how I look at whiskey. Whiskey as a whole. I get the questions all the time, like, what's your favorite Scotch? What's your favorite Irish? What's your favorite Canadian?
I get that all the time at the store.
And it's like, I don't. I have my moments when I want a pour of something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I really do embrace everything unless it's Jesse James bourbon. And then that just goes into a bottle of Blanton's, and then I pour it down the drain.
Jeez.
On a TikTok video, and I have the whole internet mad at me.
I don't think it bothered you.
No.
You made it look like you were pouring a bottle of Blanton's down the drain.
I did. Yeah, I did. And I got death threats.
Oh,
death threats?
Cool.
I did. Yeah.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think what you did was funny, but for someone to threaten you, like, that's a bunch of bullshit.
I mean, majority of the comments were, "Oh, it's sweet tea," and I'm like, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It was whiskey.
No,
it wasn't Blanton's. You got that right, but it wasn't sweet tea. It was a bottle I got duped into buying in Tennessee, and I tried it, and that's what a wet dog tastes like.
Oh, yikes. So Ray had a question here. Can I ask why you would take a limited number of barrels and blend them in multiple ways rather than find the sweet spot and make it all the same?
Because we are a small local distillery, and so if we put out almost 1,000 bottles of the same product, they would most likely sit on the shelves for a long time.
Okay.
Because not majority, but there are a lot of people out there, they'll try something new one time.
Yeah.
And so why make a mass product for a company that has 15 people on staff?
Right.
That we don't know if it's going to move, or make 3 products out of those barrels we have and give a limited number and always keep it evolving.
Well, I think, that makes sense. And to Ray, there's a lot of reasons why you do limited amounts. Again, you say that. So instead of having the 370-ish or whatever, now you're looking at, 1,000-ish of the same. You still have a small batch, or a small
we still have
level.
We still have a standard bourbon.
But my point is if you did this with those 6 barrels, to Ray's question, now you have a limited one. Yeah, there's more of that. But with the number of barrels that you had here, what you produced overall, now you're pushing around 1,000 or a little bit more than 1,000 bottles of one limited product.
Yep. And so having something that having one product go out that large for a craft distillery, and this speaks for all craft distillery, that's a gamble that most of us don't want to play, because it may be a great bottle, but how long is it going to take to sell? So it's the logistics on the sales side as well.
Well, and sometimes, like, if you come out with one and you do, the 1,000, 1,100 barrels, someone's going to taste that and they buy one bottle.
Mm-hmm.
If you make 3 different products from that, they may taste all 3 and be like, you know what? I like all 3 for different reasons. Maybe I'll buy all 3. So instead of selling one bottle, you just sold 3 bottles because they're different.
It's a gamble too, because they could really say they buy the one, they're like, oh, I really like that. And then they get into the next one, and like, I didn't like that. Now I can't really trust where you're going with it. You know what I mean? Because that's also, you don't know how the consumer is going to react, but I like the fact you guys did a series here, because there is some variation. There is the bourbon hunt is real still, you know what I mean? So, especially on the local side, Ohio side, which is where you guys are distributing as of now, if I'm not mistaken, is Ohio.
Yes.
Only.
Ohio, and we have some in Kentucky.
In Kentucky, okay. But when it's a smaller distribution, also, I mean, it's kind of part of, if you have people that are fans of going to the distillery and checking out your bottles.
Yeah, and even like if you don't like, to kind of get away from that fear of, well, what if I buy this bottle and I don't like it? That's why we have the distillery right in Columbus. Come down, give it a sample, and then buy the one you want.
Mm-hmm.
And again, let me remind everyone, Echo has been, in my opinion, pretty generous in pricing these at $49.99.
Thank you.
So you're not gambling out there with a $100 plus bottle of these limited runs, and it's kind of like, well, I like that first one. I bought the second one, didn't like it. Now I'm $200 in. Probably not going to spend $100 on the next bottle.
Right.
So it's a low risk. Joe says, and online can order any individual bottle on our online store.
Correct.
Ray had a follow-up on that. So even if you do find a cracking blend, as he calls it, that you all really love, you'd still vary from that with the balance of the product.
Yes. Why not?
I don't know. I can't think of a reason. I mean, I get, Ray, what you're getting at. I mean, like if you have one that you really like, I mean, you can always, I think, part of this blending process too, and you guys being still fairly young distillery, right? So you're still sourcing everything that's out on the market, bourbon wise.
Yep.
I think you can, if you find one that say you really love, you can try to start duplicating it, but when you're buying barrels, it's tough to do.
It is tough to do.
So
yeah.
I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. I feel like
this is just a way to be creative, be unique, be, have a different kind of product line, a different way of advertising that product, selling that product. Yeah.
Well, and like what I said to Ray's question earlier, like different consumers have different preferences and flavor profiles that they like.
Right.
So some people may like one of these over the other two.
Someone may want the dessert notes.
Yes.
And the stone fruits. Somebody may want the leathers and the black peppers and the tobaccos. Someone might want the elements of the
woodsy,
outdoorsy, the oaks, the cedars, and then this one is just, we call this one elemental. Joe named that. I don't know why he named it elemental, to be honest.
What's Joe's background again? Before this, do we know?
He worked for OSU.
Okay.
I know that much.
Okay.
He drank craft beer in college and thought about opening a brewery.
I remember that part of the story. I remember that part of the story.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we kind of get into the I don't say the wrap up.
Well, I was
elemental was the first. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So again, like I said, all of our products are available to try at the distillery. You can walk straight into our bottle shop and just give anything a sample. But starting on May 22nd,
okay,
the launch of the Ohio Distillery Trail is going to happen.
Love that.
So not only us, but the rest of the distilleries in Ohio, you're going to be able to
all of Ohio, not just the Columbus area.
Not just the Columbus area. You're
nice.
going to be able to come and be a part of the Ohio Distillery Trail and tour all of the local companies and support local. But our launch party is actually on May 25th.
Okay.
So we will be doing a launch party. There's going to be special cocktails. There's going to be.
What week is that?
Should be a Saturday.
Yeah.
There are days. There's times I hate
25th is Saturday because Saturday's the 18th. I'm going to a wedding.
Yeah. So it is Saturday the 25th. So from 4 to 10 p.m. we're having a launch party. Again, doing tours, having a special release. You'll find out when that happens.
Okay.
On that day. But we got some stuff planned and we're ready to have some fun.
Didn't you guys just have a bartender get recognized?
We did. Yeah, Derek, our bar manager, Derek, took third place in the best bartender in Columbus.
Fantastic.
That was for 614 Columbest.
Nice.
So
That's great. I love it. Yeah, a lot of big things are happening. I mean, I think we're expanding as a bourbon world.
Yeah,
like it is expanding. It wasn't that long ago that local distilleries, whether you're in Ohio or other states, it was kind of like, oh, I was in, I don't know, say I was in Nevada and they had a local distillery. It's really good. And you bring back a bottle and you can't find it anywhere else. You got that nostalgia or like from the vacation or whatever it is.
Right.
And like you let other people try it and they're like, oh, that is pretty good. And that's where it stops.
Yeah.
And I think we've grown as a bourbon community and you guys as distilleries where everyone's grown up a bit.
Right.
You know, and I think it's nice to see that where that would be probably the next step where you take the focus a little bit, not obviously completely off of the Kentucky, you know, market, but different states are going to start emerging.
Right.
Different cities are going to start emerging.
There are a lot of cool craft distilleries all over the United States. Before I deleted my other former social media platforms, you know, TikTok and Instagram, I had, you know, a good following and people that I, you know, really enjoyed connecting with and all across the United States and, you know, doing stuff for people and making friends, having bottles sent to me from all over the United States just because people were just generous.
Sure.
You know, it was COVID. We were all locked down. Couldn't really go out and do anything.
Right.
You know, we're sharing bottles from our own states and sending it to people and trading bottles and whatnot. I mean, no, I'm sorry. We shipped olive oil. And
Not so virgin.
Yeah.
Olive oil.
Right. Yeah. Artisan.
Sure.
Artisan.
Sure.
But, you know, I've tried stuff all over the place, that states that I've never been to and that I really don't plan on going to.
Yeah.
But I got to try stuff and I have bottles from there because of those. And it's like, there's some really good stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of did it for me, where I was like, I'd already kind of been fed up with waiting in line to buy something. You know, there for the longest time, you know, E.H. Taylor, you know, small batch, I used to be able to just walk in and get it and sit on the shelf.
A lot of different bottles you can do that.
Yeah. And so like some of those were my go-tos just because, and honestly, I started drinking E.H. Taylor small batch because I like the way the label looked.
It's a sweet canister and label.
Yeah,
for sure.
All of it.
Yeah.
But even that, I got kind of bored with the same taste and wanted to change things up.
Yeah, that's a fine line to walk with whiskeys or cigars, I think, is that you start trying stuff and eventually you're like, I'm going to keep trying new stuff, but I also want to, my next pour, I know I like this one.
Right.
Yeah. You know, when you're trying different stuff. Yeah. Or like you're lighting up new cigars or trying different stuff. And it's like, I've been smoking a new cigar for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to light up something that I know I like, you know? So it's nice to keep trying stuff and keep going back to some of your favorites. That is going back to Ray's comments. That's one of the sad parts about doing some projects like this is the limited runs is that, you made 370-ish bottles of, say, one of these that you just absolutely love.
And when it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. That's just a fact of life, I feel like. And some people get a little upset about that. They're like, well, I really liked it. Can you make more? It's like, nope. Like, literally, I can't. Like, like it's impossible to make that particular batch again. So
nothing lasts forever.
No.
Enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of like what we had last week when I brought that Midwinter Night's Dram on. Like, that's a different bottle every single year. And usually it sells out almost immediately because I said last year we had 6 bottles of that at the store. And, you know, I get to the store 2 hours after it opens. So all the hunters have already waited in line. So I figured that bottle was going to be gone. And I get there and there's still 2 more bottles left. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to buy one. And come to find out, the reason why people weren't jumping all over that one is because they had the year before. And apparently the 2022 release was terrible. And so,
not well received.
Yeah. So people weren't jumping on the 23 release. And 23 release, we thought it was pretty darn good, didn't we, Steve?
Yeah, it was.
See,
that's what I
don't do the Midwinter's Nights are port finished, and I don't do a port finish.
Not a big fan of that. And that's fine because it did have a bit of that characteristic, I would say.
Yeah.
If you listen back to the last week's episode, for sure. I do want to touch base here real quick on the cigar that we are smoking that Wes is enjoying secondhand here. This is called the Diesel Vintage Series Natural. It started shipping in March, so this is a new one on the market. Diesel is nothing new. It's by AJ Fernandez, which is a huge name in the industry at this point. And you've got Justin Andrews with now Forged and General, that he is working with AJ on a lot of different things. And kind of before Justin Andrews got in his new position, he was basically the Diesel guy, right? He was the connection there. We've had him on the show before, and love what he's doing with a lot of these projects. The original Diesel Vintage Series, which is also fairly new to the market. It's not that old. I want to say a year or so. This is the natural. So the Maduro one was last year. This is the new one. The price point is what surprised me on this, and I'll get to it, especially when you hear about what they did with this series. You've got oh no, not you, Siri. Oh, son of a bitch.
You said series.
I know, she's nosy. So this has got the Ecuadorian wrapper. It's got the Nicaraguan Habano binder from Esteli, and then it's got Nicaraguan filler. Now the filler is, according to them, it is from Jalapa region, and it's aged 5 to 7 years between all the different leaves, right? So you got different ages on the leaves used. But with that, having that age on there, calling it vintage, 5 to 7 year old tobacco in this blend, I'm not saying it's going to be a $30, $40 cigar. I'm not saying that by any means. And I already said you're surprised, but so I'm not even going to bother asking you, Nate, because I was going to ask, like, what do you think the cost is?
I was still gonna.
You want to guess?
So before you even read that part, I was.
Don't look.
No, I'm not.
You're looking at the sheet.
At this
Eyes
angle.
forward.
At this angle.
Eyes forward. Talk to them.
I was expecting this to be a little bit below the Rabbit Hole series from them, because I carry the Rabbit Hole series at Carfagna's from Diesel. So the Cave Hill, the PX Sherry, and the Boxer Grail Founders Edition.
Yeah, which is a little higher.
Yeah. That's an 18. The others are 12 and 13 on my shelf. So I was thinking this one was going to be like in that $10 to $12 range.
So MSRP on this, and you've got several different sizes. Interesting enough, just like what Eric Espinosa uses, he's got a 6x46 that he calls a Robusto on this.
Nice.
Which this is not.
No. Is it Robusto?
This is a Robusto Gordo, 56 ring gauge by 5. You've got 5 different sizes, ranging from $7.79 all the way up to $9.29.
Wow. All right.
So MSRP, this is before your tobacco tax, before you get to, whichever state you're in. But on the suggested retail, this is sub $10 for the cigar, which I am pleased, and pleasantly surprised, honestly. But they come in 20 count boxes. The Robusto comes in a 10 count box. But interesting, because I think I'm sitting here smoking this. It's nice, medium bodied. Yeah, I think it does have, and I'm not even going off of this because I get what they're saying. But I am getting, they say a cedar undertone. I'm getting a lot of that, the woodiness. I get a little bit, not the black pepper, but when you were saying like the porch cigars had a little pepper to it, I think it complemented it. Yeah, because it's got a little bit of that to it. They say on here it's creamy notes with transition to earthiness. I'm not getting as much creaminess. I don't know about you, Nate. You get a little bit?
Early on, I was thinking more leather type notes to it. But like as the cigar's gotten down, I'm a little bit further on mine. It started to transition from that leather to a little bit more of that earthiness and spice as well.
Yeah, I get a little spice.
Yeah.
Not as much like black pepper, but a little spice to it.
Yeah.
Like, but I think it's why it went, for me, I think it went really well with the porch cigars.
Yeah.
Personally. That was synergy there. You know what I mean?
That was the best combo.
I forgot you were here. I was just trying to compliment you. God damn it. You were listening to me? Shit. It's like, score.
Yes.
But yeah, Diesel was
surprise. Wes does know what he's talking about.
Yeah. He's been in his garage before when the doors weren't open.
But it's funny, no matter how many times I sit here, I still, every time you start talking cigars, I'm like, is this what it feels like for somebody who speaks a different language to sit around a bunch of Americans who are talking?
No, this is what it seems like to people that when you start talking whiskey and they don't know anything about whiskey.
Okay.
So yeah, exactly, exactly what you said.
So I'm like some of the words and the terms, and like I'm like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
He's like, Habano, what the fuck is that?
Well, you're going back to the farming on both of these, right? It's just, and we've talked about it on the show before. Beyond mash bill, the bourbon world, whiskey world, but especially I think the bourbon world, they scale it back to like behind the curtain is the mash bill,
Right.
but there's no real talk on what farms the corn is coming from. There's no there's no commentary on any of these reviews that I've seen that any distilleries are talking about, unless sometimes they do. Like we had Jephthah Creed, where they're really big on the Bloody Butcher corn.
Yeah.
So they are like, that's their thing. They talk about the fact that they grow this, they do that. But I more often than not, when it comes to cigars, and it's funny, like you don't know, Wes, but AJ used to, when he was starting to really get on the scene, there would be proprietary wrappers. Like he would not totally disclose as much of the blend. And some companies still do that to a point. But the cigar world, I think, has they're ahead of the bourbon world, right? When it comes to some of this stuff where some people want to know, the cigar nerds want to read, oh, it's a Habano seed, it's a Criollo seed, it's a Corojo seed. These are different tobacco varietals in a sense, right? So this is where you break that down. Then you talk about like Jalapa, that's a region of Nicaragua.
Okay.
Then there's Condega, there's the Esteli, there's different areas of where they're growing this. And so it goes all the way down from the tobacco side is this blend is from these countries, or it's all from one country. But even if it's all from Nicaragua, they start listing off the different seeds. And then also there's 4 major regions in Nicaragua that they start really rattling off.
This pairs for me more like I'm understanding more kind of comparing it to Scotland.
Yes, the 4 major regions, absolutely, where they're coming out of and where they're getting their ingredients from. Yeah, where bourbon.
And how, like in Scotland, you have 6 different regions and all
6 different, excuse me, yes.
Yeah, 6 different regions, and they all, they're all tasting different because of the elements and the temperatures. And
well, and then even with tobacco, it also goes another step further because you have different leaves on the plant, and each one of those has different flavor profiles, different combustibility, and strength, and in terms of nicotine content. So there are even some brands out there that'll even take it to that step where, all right, it's not just Corojo from Jalapa, it's Seco or it's Viso,
like middle leaves, top leaves, stuff like that.
Okay,
I think so.
That is really cool, and I like
that,
stuff
and that's
like
why I think
where there's that much attention into what's being done,
and that's why I think cigar.
I can't smoke them, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah,
and that's why I think the cigar industry
behind it.
Yeah, I think the cigar industry, the way they break it down in some of that stuff, mirrors more the wine world than it does the whiskey world. Because
wine's like in between the two.
Yeah, because with wine, you can take that same grape, but if you grow it in different countries or different regions within a country, you're going to get a different flavor profile. Whether you age it in French oak or American oak or neutral oak or what percentage.
And that's where I say it's kind of between, because you get a little bit of that with like the finishing process now with the bourbons and stuff. But I don't think, if I had to guess, I don't think the bourbon community will get, not that they need to, but get to the point where you say, okay, this is 75% corn. Now it's like, oh, this is an MGP barrel. But I have not seen, and I don't foresee it being a conversation where it's like, oh, 75% corn from here. Like it's, and this rye is from this region of Canada or wherever it, you know what I mean? It's just like,
that'd be interesting.
26% rye. Okay, cool. Now it's like I was making comments like, oh, that might be where this, these notes are coming from, or this characteristic is. It could go that way because, again, you're going to have to keep that attention span from consumers beyond the secondary market, beyond, the local distilleries, beyond the major Kentucky distilleries. I think there might be, I would say to the bourbon world that it would make sense to dive down just a little bit further and have even more disclosure of where it's coming from.
I
And
do
a lot
not
of people
disagree.
will be like, I don't fucking care where the corn's coming from. But there's a lot of people who will be like, oh, that's good corn.
I think
Now all of a sudden
I
it's
do
like,
not
you know what I mean?
disagree.
Yeah, like, oh, that's a good farm that's coming from.
I think some of the smaller distilleries would benefit more from that, because I think some of the staple distilleries that are out there, you know, like your Jim Beam brands, your Buffalo Trace brands, Woodford, like any of those, pretty much any of your Brown Formans, like they sell just on the name that's on the bottle.
They do.
But I think some of the smaller, more craft distilleries, I think they could benefit from adding in some of that detail more so than the big guys would.
Absolutely. And for this, I had the opportunity, like a lot of people have, went to a tasting with Eddie Russell, and from Wild Turkey. And I asked that question, Wes. I literally I was sitting in a room over in the Dublin area at, was it Vaso, the rooftop thing. And we did a tasting. It was a lot of bartenders and restaurant and bar staff were invited to it. And then we were invited to it because we knew. Anyways, but I asked about midway through the Q&A, and I said it just like that. I said, I'm more from the cigar world, and everything I just said condensed. And I said, it's a bigger point of where the stuff's coming from. And Eddie, you know, Wild Turkey has an established relationship for their main products that it's all coming from the same farms.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, to Nate, your point, if it's a Wild Turkey product, you almost like trust, if you're a fan, like you trust that they're using the same kind of corn, the same rye source, the same sources.
Absolutely.
The local guys, you know, I think when like Starlight in Indiana, they grow a lot of their stuff too.
Yeah.
And like I said, like Jeff the Creed, they boast it if they're growing it, but it's almost that sourcing of where the grains are coming from.
Yeah.
Could benefit. It could be a waste. I don't know if it'll happen or not.
You know, we use grains as well for some of the products that we do and distill, and those grains actually come from Marysville, Ohio.
And see, if it's a local thing, I think it extends the local footprint.
Yeah, absolutely.
To some people, they're just like, Marysville, Ohio, like what's that?
Some people, yeah. But for us, like, you know, we're small business, we're local, but we also support other local business as well. So every single thing stuck to this bottle is made in Ohio.
Really?
Yeah. So our labels, the stickers, they all come from Blue Label Corp down in Lancaster.
Nice.
When we're talking about our rums, like our Jaggery, the Panella, the cane sugar, molasses that we use is sourced from a company out of Dayton, Ohio.
See, I love that stuff. Obviously, being more bourbon's world, but more cigar world. I always like, it's a lot of production value, and it may be lost on a lot of people. But that kind of seed, whether it's corn or whatever, you know, seed to the end product. Cigars are easier because you're literally looking at the leaves. I mean, there's no yeah, there's a process. You ferment, you age it and all that stuff, but it's like, it's not liquid. You're like, oh yeah, no, these are just the leaves that we're talking about. It's a lot easier to say like this wrapper leaf is from this region, this seed and all that stuff, because it's very visual. But I could see like a nice website video, you know, of we start with this farm and we get like, if you guys, you're sourcing it now, but
we don't just stop there
cool
with that sort of stuff. Just to kind of, I guess, touch base a little bit more on how we give back to, you know, other business in the state of Ohio. Like my business cards are made a block and a half away at this little teeny shop on a second floor. My materials that have like my price sheets, my lists and stuff like that, those all come from like Zip Print and Grandview.
The like, printers that you use.
Yeah. So
like you said, the labels, the stickers and everything.
Yeah.
No.
So anywhere where we can see to feed money back into the state of Ohio, we're doing it.
Yeah, I love it. And remind everyone, are you guys working on, are you aging your own barrels right now?
Yeah, we have our own stuff being aged.
That's what I thought. I didn't want to misspeak there. But so that's something that you guys take back. But for those out there that are in there, in the bourbon side of it, you know, especially producing it, I think there's some value there to really do some sort of information. These websites that you guys all do on this, I mean, they're such nice websites. There's a lot of information. They're pretty. They're they're easy to navigate and all that stuff.
Joe takes some time to do that.
But I would love. Well, yeah, he said IT background. That's what it was.
Yeah, IT background.
But yeah, I'd like to see that. Not to be a broken record here, I'd like to see like that video, like when you guys start doing. If you are sourcing from a certain farm if you're sourcing from corn, you're sourcing the rye, you're sourcing all that stuff. It's just such a cool concept to see what is. Because a lot of drinkers don't. It's kind of like buying, meat at the grocery store, like the steaks. Right. Like, I'm not saying you want to see the cows, but I'm just saying, like,
I'll pet them and eat them the next day.
It's a nice thing. Some of the butchers, though, the butchers boast, the higher end butcher shops and stuff. They boast that it's locally sourced from this,
here's the
this area. Yeah, exactly. And it's like people get into that stuff, and there's enough nerdery going on in the bourbon world that I think this is something that could take off for more of the local side.
Yep.
So I'll leave it there.
Fully agree with you. Now I got a question for you guys. So
shoot.
You use a Zippo, you use a blowtorch.
Well, his is still a.
So I still use butane. This is a Zippo, but this is an insert.
Oh, okay. But I haven't seen you use the.
I like a soft flame in a controlled environment. It's a pain in the ass out, like when it's even a breeze. Like you're outside,
now,
a soft flame.
Is there a difference to using?
So butane is typically what is the preferred fuel for lighting a cigar, because
I wasn't gonna say like is Zippo full of gasoline.
Well, jet fuel. So that's the thing. Like,
but no, because there is a value there
for cigar smokers. We recommend butane because butane doesn't have a taste to it.
It's odorless and tasteless.
So when you light your cigar and you're puffing on it, you're tasting the tobacco as it's burning. Zippo fluid has a flavor to it. And so like when you light a cigar with a Zippo that is using Zippo fluid, you can taste that in the cigar. Gotcha. When you initially light it up, and it takes a few
nuances.
Say you're going to light it with a match,
right?
Like actually, like match light your cigars. Is that going to alter the entire cigar?
Not typically. It's usually as you're lighting it. So a lot of the typical matches are going to be sulfur on the end of it. So you can get sulfur-free matches. But the big thing, like if you're using a match, it's you strike it, let the sulfur burn off, and then that's why people like those long wooden matches. Not necessarily, in my opinion, because it's easier that it's longer as you're lighting a cigar, rolling it, getting the whole foot lit, that you're not like burning through a bunch of matches.
Right.
But you burn off that sulfur and then let it get to the wood part of it.
Yeah, because
there was a time where people were like
wood.
Yes.
People didn't want to use lighters; they used matches because you're lighting off of wood. If you ever seen someone light off of a cedar spill, or they call it like a cracked piece of cedar, it's because back in the day you had kerosene lamps. You had basically like Zippo fluid, but even like more odor and taste to it. So you're lighting off of like kerosene or whatever. You'd light something like a cedar spill, let that burn momentarily, and now you have at least a pleasant aroma that complements everything. Okay. You're not having the chemicals and everything else. Soft flame, for me, the reason I like it is because when you use a torch, if you have that blue flame right on top of it, like when you watch Nate, usually you have it off of there a little bit. You don't see the flame touching.
Nate lights a cigar like a kid with a magnifying glass chasing ants, man. He wants that thing on fire.
No. Because so there are times where people will come to the store, and I don't think we have something like it in here, but like when they're lighting off one of the shop lighters, they got the end of the cigar like right here
in the flame,
and you'll see them like scorch up the cigar because that flame's just working its way around and pushing out a solid flame. But when I light mine, like I am.
These are all nuances. If you put it right in that blue flame, it is extremely hot, and it could also, this again, there's I think some debate on it, but I'm of the opinion it can actually burn the tobacco so hot that it chemically it'll change it a little bit. Where this is more of like more natural. The yellow flame, it's not as hot up here, and then when he's holding it away from that, it's kind of dissipating a little bit of that heat. So it's a little bit soft flame, but it doesn't really affect. You're getting more of, I think, the natural tobacco burn off of that.
Okay.
There's a video out there. There's several of them, just like the bourbon world. Everyone's got an opinion. I think it's a Davidoff Lounge video, and I'm telling you, it is about a 8-minute process to light a cigar.
They do that thing.
I mean, it's like, all right, first you light a little bit of it, and then you let it rest. And these guys are just talking. They're sitting in suits, and they're in this nice lounge, and it's like, it's a 5 to 8 minute process to light a cigar. And I'm like, you guys must have a lot more time than most people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask, out of the 3 bottles, I went back to whiskey.
We had him. He was interested, and then we just kept him going. And then
had me
like,
in the first
all right,
half, not going to lie.
Yeah, well.
So out of
foreign language
out of the 3
again.
bourbons we have here, mind you, the Engineer series, they're all barrel proof. Steve, what was your favorite and what was your least favorite?
With what we're doing tonight, with doing it with a cigar, I would say my favorite is actually the porch cigars to sip on with smoking a cigar.
You'll get your chance to answer.
He likes the video that I do. But it's tough. You know what this reminded me of, and you guys are gonna laugh at me, is that have you ever used like beard oil?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like three.
I know I'm summer short, but man,
no, this is like 3 different beard oils. You know what I mean? When they're describing the different like scents of beard oils.
Yeah.
This is what it reminded me of, like the Woodsman, the apricot cobbler, and the porch cigars. Because I've like, you'll see a certain like, beard oil brand or whatever, and they've got the 3 or 4 different scents.
Yeah.
And you're like reading it, it's got all the notes in there, and then you actually smell it, you're like, that is different. And then you smell the next one, you're like, well, no, that's good too, but it's different. And it's like some are more subtle and some are like, a little bit more in your face, but that's what this reminded me of for some reason. But yeah, mine's porch cigars. It's a toss up between the other 2, Woodsman and apricot cobbler. For me, I really enjoyed.
You enjoyed those pretty much evenly, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Nate?
So porch cigar for me is my favorite of the 3 as well. My number 2, I'm going to go the apricot as my number 2.
Okay.
What's your third? No, just kidding.
All right. Well, I guess I'll answer the question. My number 1, if I was going to go and just pour off one of these, my number 1 go-to is the Woodsman. And then my number 2 is a tie between apricot cobbler and porch cigars because of the variations.
They're very different.
Yeah,
very different.
But the Woodsman is where my palate sits on these batches, on these 3 blends, just because it just puts me where I want to be, which is outside in the woods.
You can say that about a lot of these things. It puts you in a kind of a picture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the only time I'm going to sit on a porch and have anything to do with cigar is when I'm in a garage with you guys to smoke a lot of
it's like cigars. A porch, sort of.
We have a back porch.
I do like that you guys pick the porch cigars, and there's a porch swing on there because that is a checklist that you don't see those on houses anymore. Especially newer builds, the nice porch swing.
Right. I agree.
My grandma had a porch swing on the back porch, it was screened-in porch, and that was as a kid, it was. If everyone's out on that porch, you wanted to be on that swing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's limited seating. And you had to be the first one out there for that swing.
Yep.
And not swing too much as a kid because you start doing it and then you get yelled at because you start like kicking.
Hit the house. Bang up against the handrail.
Yeah. My dad's first house, on his back patio, he had a porch. On his back patio, he had a porch swing, and there was one time I was swinging on it like I was.
What can I pour you now?
Like I was swinging on a port, or like I was swinging on a swing at the playground. You get up high enough to where the chain gets a little loose and then snaps back down. Yep. That's all fun and games till the chain snaps.
Oh yeah. You don't want that.
Yes, sir.
In my instance, grandma would be pissed.
Well, my dad wasn't happy either.
The rating time on this, you were going to pour one for Nate, right?
Yeah, I was. What are you circling back to, Nate?
Let me try number 2 with this because I'm on the Monte Cristo Espada. So let me try number 2 with this cigar. Thank you.
Also, a medium bodied cigar. Pick that because, again,
Didn't know what we were getting into.
Right. Again, when you're doing something like this where you have multiple bottles that you're sampling from, I like sticking with a straight up medium bodied cigar that is
Not overly complex.
there's not a whole lot of spice or pepper. It's not going to be overpowering in any way, any flavor profile. Nate, for you with the cigar, what would you rate that?
So the
10 being the best for those that haven't listened to this before yet.
The diesel vintage, I think it's a solid smoke. For me, it would have been a little bit better if the flavor that was there was a little punchier. I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's a solid cigar. I think it's a really good smoke for the price point coming in, before tobacco tax at sub $10. And that, sub $10, that's still for the big size that they probably make. So, I mean, this one's probably coming in at that 8, 9, even with tobacco tax. So I think it's a solid smoke. I just wish the flavor that was there was more potent. I think that last third of the cigar started to get a little harsh. Because sometimes I really like it when a cigar will just burn all the way down. If I still have a couple inches left on a Robusto and it starts tasting a little bitey, it's like, I'm missing out on some of the cigar that's still left. Sure. But when a cigar turns, you just throw it and get
You're done with it. Yeah.
Don't sit there and be like, oh, I'm gonna suffer through until it burns my fingers. No, when it's done, it's done.
Yeah, and I'm an 8 on the cigar. I get mine hasn't turned on me. I thought it kind of built a little bit nicely here, and maybe we're saying the same thing, but I like the way it built. And to your question before you kind of got bored with our explanations there at the very end, relighting it with a not as hot flame, what we were saying, where you get that if you have that butane, that blue flame, that heat will, like, I think, almost give you a little bit of a bite to it, like he said when you first light it. But when you're relighting and you're towards the end of the cigar, I've got a couple inches or so left, it can really kind of tarnish that. So that's where I've been with the soft flame. You kind of just heat it back up and do that. But 8 on that. I think the price point, and I know people joke about, we talk about the price point a lot, but I think with cigars, and there's so many things out there with whiskeys as well, price does come into effect with it once you know it. And I think the construction on this is really good. It went out a couple times. We're talking a lot, but construction for a sub $10 cigar, it's great. The wrapper, I mean, Wes, you can even see the sheen on that.
Yeah,
it's got a nice, like, oily, even though it's a more lighter wrapper leaf, but it's got this nice just sheen on there. Good tobacco, I think they're using in this, and AJ really doesn't miss a whole lot. You may not like his blend that he does in a particular cigar, but he does so many different blends for himself and other brands. He doesn't miss very often.
Nice.
As far as construction and everything else.
That's awesome.
The whiskeys, I don't know. We don't necessarily have to do out of 10 for each of these bottles, but Nate, I'll start with you. This project that Echo is doing and Wes is doing here, I mean, how do you see this?
I like the concept. Especially you guys, like you guys alluded to, and even Joe alluded to it in the comments, being a smaller local distillery, if you do 370 bottles of each one of these, that can last you guys quite a while.
Just remember that if Joe's opinion mattered, he'd be sitting here. And I'm sitting here.
He's been on the show before.
Remotely.
How many times?
Once.
This is my third time.
Yeah. Since
it's part of your job.
Is this your third time since Echo?
No.
Oh, third total.
Third total.
Okay.
I don't have to bring that up, but I mean,
I thought he was only counting Echo.
No.
No, his tenure on the Bourbon and BS podcast. There's 3.
Yeah.
No, I like the idea because, and it's something we kind of alluded to last week, and I touched on again today. We'll talk about that High West Midwinter Night Stram. Like, when you guys come out with a series like this, where, okay, this is this year's batch, different bottles are going to have different flavor profile. Next year, we're going to do this thing again, but they're going to taste different. Then, we're going to intentionally blend something to have different flavors than what last year's were. I think it keeps that excitement. It keeps people coming back to it. They're like, I can't wait to see what they come out with next year.
And that's exactly what I want. I want people to see the creativity that is in the craft distilling world.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. The craft distilleries that are out there, whether it's us or not, I want people to go, there's more out there than just standing in line.
Oh gosh, yes.
There's so much more out there, and there's so much creativity, and there are people who just really like me, myself, Joe, Nikhil, we care about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that
it shows,
and something that I'm standing behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I can't stand behind a product that I don't think is going to sell. And there's a reason I work for Echo Spirits is because I am fully behind everything we're doing.
It's good business and good place to work, obviously, if you have that identity to it.
I mean, when you can walk into, say just a state liquor store like Carfagnas, you walk in there and I can talk with customers and I don't have to elaborate a single thing. I don't have to stretch the truth on anything, and I can be straightforward and you can see my passion for what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
That makes a big difference.
Whiskeys, cigars, same thing. When a person gets a job at a distillery or a cigar company and they're repping it or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Man, I've talked to cigars, especially some bourbon, but when they're working for a distillery or they're repping something like a cigar or something like that, you talk to them after the fact or they've moved on to it. Not saying you moved on like to Echo, but like on the cigar side, for example, when a rep is working for someone and obviously they're doing their job, you know what I mean? And not that they're repping like shit necessarily, but when they move on to like another company, I've heard this multiple times where they're like, no, I like the company, I like the people I'm working with, but it's like, I just really like our portfolio better than the last one I was working for. And it's like, well, I get that, sometimes it's like if you're smoking cigars or you're selling whiskeys and it's just like, yeah, no, it's great. You should try this. You want to try a sample? And then it's like, you go to a different company where you're like, I actually really like this stuff. It's a lot easier. It shows, in their
it does. It
their
really
presentation and everything else. They're not talking about like deals as much or like the prices as much. They're talking about the process. They're talking about what's in the bottle. They're talking about the cigar blends.
I think personally, I'm very lucky because being in this industry, I've been with companies that I've felt that way before, where I felt that way the whole time. I can stand behind the products that I'm talking about with confidence, and with pride. So it's not just Echo Spirits, but where I've been, I've had pride in where I've worked.
Yeah,
that's
I've had
good.
pride in the job I've done, and been proud of what these companies have stood for and how they've operated their business.
It was cool to see too. Just as a side note with you to see with your previous employer being older than Echo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were part of this little growth, like they had been growing before, but they, with you being a part of it. And then now almost like, I won't say it's taking a step back, but like almost in time where they're starting a process and you're part of the process at an earlier date.
Yeah. And
you
that's
take the knowledge you have and you're bringing it to, I like
one of the reasons I really went with Echo is because, smaller company, and I get to be a part of the hard growth.
Yeah.
You're talking about it.
This is a new thing.
Yeah, we're talking.
Last time you're on, first barrel pick.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about a company that started in 2019 and that, we are growing, but we are doing all the work to grow.
Yeah.
And I love every stressful moment of it.
And we joked with Joe. And I think with you, it's like 2019, perfect time to start a business.
You'd think. Hindsight's 2020.
Well, I mean, remember 4 years ago we had on the guys from Bua, and they launched their Irish whiskey March of 2020.
Yeah,
and we had them on the day we found out we had to cancel the 10 event.
I don't know the exact date, but you should ask Joe, or if Joe's still in the comments. When did we decide to launch and open the bar at Echo Spirits?
bad timing there.
Yeah.
But with that, guys, let's round out part one here. Cheers. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. We'll take a quick intermission. And we're going to be keeping it light in the second part. Cheers.
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 We thought bar was opening March 2020, he says.
Yeah.
Everyone cool? Need a break?
8.5, 9, 8.
More water?
Yes, please. Yeah, I would like to.
Tony might be at the door because he's out with Kristen, just so you
I'd
know.
like to stand up for a hot sec.
Yeah. I was actually going to invite you.
Please, sir, I want some more.
I'm actually going to bring on a fourth person for part 2, if that's cool.
Oh.
Dog.
No. Remotely.
No. Joe said, "Got to run. Keep Wes hydrated. If he capes, give him crap."
Capes? Capes?
I think that may have been a typo.
Give him crap or crack?
No, he said crap.
Can the answer be yes to both?
No, what you guys were talking about, the passion sometimes. So dealing with a lot of the wine reps that we get, like there are some wine reps that come in, and every single time they come in, whatever product they're bringing, like this is the greatest thing. And like, it's like, yeah, you said that on Monday. It's like, you said that on Thursday. You said on Monday again. Like, not everything in your portfolio is a slam dunk. So when they start saying that at every product, it's like, okay, now I don't know what to believe and what's true and what's bullshit. But then you also have like the other side where they're like, oh yeah, this is amazing. And you taste it and you're like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is all right. This isn't something I would want to sit down and buy a bottle of. So it's a tough thing. Same thing with cigars. You get reps that come in, bring a cigar, and like, oh yeah, this is a great blend, and you smoke it. You wait till they're gone, you smoke it, and you're like, I don't know. I think you're just trying to sell me at that point. Is Sean? No, Sean is not running the cameras, Greg.
Cameras. I don't know if Shannon's joining us or not. Send him the invite. Get started.
I gotcha.
You still live, Mike?
Yeah.
Yes. Still live.
Ready when you are.
Hey, Wes, you're on speakerphone. Common things said when people answer the phone call.
Well, remember City Slickers?
I actually thought of, because I redid my social media and I now have have Instagram and TikTok, and my first thought was I should do my handle as you're on speaker, Wes.
I like it.
So no, I'm not going to put my handle out there. That's now, but yeah,
there's
different.
actually a closed Facebook group. I'm not going to say the name of it, where it's mainly people in the cigar industry and community, primarily people that work in shops or reps, and it's like some of the crazy, stupid things that we hear in a shop. But like the rules are like, you can't name names or the name of the shop, and it can't be something you said.
Yeah.
There are some doozies. And it's funny because I learned that from my very first cigar shop I worked at. it got to the point where I literally brought a journal with me just in case some of this stuff would be said. And that's going in the book.
So aside from like being outdoors and whiskey, there's another thing that I do have a passion for. And I've been eyeing it all night. What's your watch?
Oh, it's a Tissot. Nothing too fancy, if you know Tissot.
It's fancier than most.
It's real quick. It's I've had this for 15 plus years, and it is Swiss, but it is it's quartz. Tissot is known like it's almost like a silver level watch. Like they have some nice automatics, and it's Swiss, and there's a lot of the guts from a lot of the great watches, but been really pleased with it over the years.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it.
And the colors with the yellow and the black, like the little touches. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
It was the subtle details in that watch that got my eye.
And they still make it, but I mean, this is, I think it's give or take like 500. So it's not like super watches go up real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've love this watch. The worst part is that, and luckily I got years ago the battery lifetime replacement through Jared Jewelers. So it's like to change the battery and get the pressurized, the waterproof and everything. They ship it away for like 6 weeks. They have to ship it over to Europe.
Oh, nice.
To change the battery. It's real convenient. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
Let's talk watches part 2. Now, Ray Cheshire, he's got some watches. In fact, I have a knockoff of a brand that I've got a great knockoff of Panerai.
Okay.
I've had that for like 8-10 years, and it's a wind. I talk to guys that have real Panerais, and they always they'll say they'll have it on. They're like, "Oh man, that's nice. It's all black Panerai." Like what? Like I was at Diamond Cellar buying the ring, and walked in there, and the guy's like, "What year is that?" And I was like, "I'm gonna be fully honest. This is from China online." And he's like, "Wow."
Nice job.
He's like, "How long have you had?" I was like, 8 years. And he's like, "And it keeps good time." I'm like, "Yeah, like real good." But I wind it like every other day. Like if I haven't worn, I mean, I reset it. But I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's great. It's not waterproof, but I know it's gonna break at some point. I'm gonna be so disappointed." It's one of those websites that they keep changing the website. Like after so many, like they get in trouble.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 314, part 2, Beyond the BS. Got about an hour to do this here. And we were trying to get someone else on, but I think they tuned out from the show. So you're stuck with us, which is fine. Keeping it light. Keep it light is the topic, because I was talking to Wes, and I said, "Is there anything you want to talk about, not want to talk about?" And he just said, "Let's try to keep it light tonight." So this is something where keeping it light for me, you went through the job change not too long ago, Wes. It's been a year and a half? Year?
Yeah, I ended. It's been about a year since I ended with my former employee or my former employer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 6 weeks off. I spent 6 weeks with my kids.
Nice. Nate, you went through a job change not too long ago either. Not just jobs or everything else. I'm going through a year where it's just, so far it's a lot, right? I mean, recently got engaged, very excited about that. It immediately went into kind of wedding planning, after the engagement, so in the last week and a half. And it's something that between that and then we went on vacation 2 weeks ago. And as I was coming home from work the night before we left. So we left on Monday, it was Saturday night, I'm driving home from work, and my engine light starts flashing and start having car problems. Ray Cheshire's going to comment about Cadillacs. Go ahead, make your comment. That's fine. I'll read it on here. But I've got a 10 plus year old car that is now having 10-year plus problems, right? You know, things going bad on it. It's a tough thing where you take it in for one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I was planning on doing brakes. Wes even commented on like, well, your tires are getting to the point where they're going to be replaced. Yeah. One, especially the one you looked at was especially because I've had them replaced under road hazards. So they're not always like complete set, you know, whatever. But those, like when that bill hits and you're just like,
isn't good with all-wheel drive vehicles.
No, it's not. I've had to do pairs. I actually tried to replace one, and it was the steer tires. And I had one that had an issue, and under road hazard, I was able to get it replaced. But because the whatever 30 seconds the other one was, and then you threw a new one on the other steer tire, just driving down the road, it was pulling. So I was like, nah, let me pay to get the other one replaced. So at least, you know, replace the pairs. You're right. With all-wheel drive, it's not the same, especially with those tires. They're the one direction. So when you rotate them, you can only rotate them so much type thing. Anyways, it was you get to vacation, then, you know, I bought a ring, and then all of a sudden we're on that vacation where I'm going to propose, and my car needs work, and I'm literally emailing from the Dominican Republic with my service advisor back and forth, and he's just like, yeah, it also, you know, it's not desperate, but you need this. Anyways, the bill comes in, that stress level starts creeping up. You know what I mean? When I bring up your jobs, you know, it's like you have those moments. The reason that you're leaving a job a lot of times is because it's getting to that point where like, this isn't a good fit for me anymore. We get back here, starting to plan the wedding, and it's just like that becomes your focus. I feel like people, like everyone, can get so focused on one thing, and as stress levels rise, it's hard to take a step back, and as the topic is, keep it light.
Yep.
Even the topics on this show, like sometimes you try it, like, you know, Nate and I have been doing this a long time, and you know, you come up with these topics that are like thinkers or like serious conversations, and you're doing all this stuff, and it's like, that's even stressful to have these conversations. And it's real easy to get really keep those blinders on and focused on something. And there's a purpose to it. And I bring up, you know, planning the wedding. It's like, there's a purpose to it. But, you know, Chris and I have had some, you know, those conversations where it's like, we still need to enjoy tonight. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, you know, when you're so focused on a job you don't like, Wes, you've been doing home improvements, and that's a lot of, you're doing them yourself. So there's a lot of labor hours there, but the cost going into it.
Background in it. Jeez.
But you know, you have the you have the background, but it's still time.
Stressful, yeah.
It's time. You're spending money. You were talking about it before the show, and it's like, you know, so I was doing the flooring, and I found this. You know, I talked about doing minor home improvements, even hiring people to do it. And it's like, we hired someone to remodel, do a light remodel on a bathroom. Well, that turned into, now this is wrong over here. And then this, you know, it's like when you hire even like contractors in, and they're like, oh yeah, it should be a 2-day job. Well, then things lingered on. And it's like, you know, it's like, it's very difficult at times, I feel like, to enjoy the good parts of life. Or, you know, you were bringing up some of the stuff, like you said something about watches, like it's a hobby. You're talking about the woodsman. You like being outside and outdoors. And it's like, I don't know if you've had this, but I can assume with work and your house and the kids and you know, everything, it's like, when do you find it does? That's how I felt with my car recently.
Everything. Yeah. It's like, and everything hits you all at once. And it does make it hard to take a step back from all of that and be like, wait, okay, what is it that I enjoy? Where do I find my happy again? Where do I find my mellow? And it can be challenging. It really can.
It gets to that point where for me, I feel like you have to either have a conversation with the other person, or even just with yourself, and push yourself to take a step back.
Yeah.
Take that breather. What do you enjoy? What aren't you doing enough of? I'm not saying that you can just drop everything and just be like, I'm not going to do anything for a week, because that's not always possible.
No.
But to remind yourself that there are things you enjoy, and maybe you haven't been giving enough attention to those things.
One of the main things I've been practicing lately is, and maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't, but it's called opposite action. So say you wake up in the morning and you're just like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to go back to bed, or it's at night and you got 3 loads of laundry, you got to switch it, and you have to take a shower and you have to do dishes, and you're just like, I just want to take an edible and watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But you know that it's not tomorrow. Tomorrow Wes is gonna be like, God, yesterday Wes was a jerk. He left all this for me to do. And so I've been practicing opposite action. So when I get in those mindsets, I'm like, all right, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna motivate myself, and I am going to go and swap the laundry. I am gonna go clean the dishes.
Yeah.
And once I feel accomplished, then I can have edible and go watch Rick and Morty. And tomorrow Wes isn't going to be cheesed off.
But you want to like at least get something done, because that stuff can
Sense of
pile up then as
accomplishment.
well.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you have the sense of accomplishment, but you also have that feeling of, say you didn't do it and all you did was just chill or veg out. Those things are still waiting for you,
right.
And
that can sometimes, and especially for me and people I know, it can leave you with anxiety. Where you wake up in the morning and you're just like, what am I going to do?
It's sometimes the little things too. I actually messaged both you guys. I was like, hey, shoot for like 7 or whatever, because I with the rain and everything, just the chores, like I had to at least mow a little bit, and trying to fit those things in,
little things,
while trying to do it does.
Can
it
I have
builds
2
up.
extra sets of hands attached to my body and 5 more hours of time?
Nate, how about you?
Well, I think that's one of those things where sometimes it helps to, if you have a bunch of things that you have to get done, like break it down, tackle it a little bit at a time. So instead of trying to handle 6 things in one day, you handle 3 things today, 3 things tomorrow, or 2 and 2. Because sometimes if you let all those things build up, all you see is this giant mound of problems or things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, it's really not that. Like if I sat there and said, hey, guess what? On this day, everyone in our house, we're going to clean the house. We're going to clean the whole house. Nobody is going to have fun at all. No one's going to enjoy that experience. But if I sit there and say, hey, today we're going to clean this room. Tomorrow we'll clean that room. And then the next day we'll do that. It breaks it down and makes the overall goal seem much more manageable and easier to accomplish. Because I think sometimes there's a lot of people out there that have a tendency to, make a molehill out of an anthill.
Mm-hmm.
You have a small problem, but you make it a big issue. And it's like, is it that big of an issue? Like, break it down. It's not going to be the end of the world. Like,
right. Yeah.
Can I have another pour?
Anything you want. Yeah. You know what? At this point, I'm not your bartender, and the bottles are open.
No, I just wanted to.
Open bar, man.
It's open bar, dude.
It was a good weekend for that.
We got Shannon on here too.
Yeah. So I'm the same way. And, part-time, single dad. I split, my time with my kids. And it does, chores is the big one. I work a full-time job, and then I still come home. I got kids to feed when I have them. And then it's like making myself aware of that. Like, okay, while they're eating dinner, I'm cleaning up everything that helped make dinner. While I'm making dinner, I'm cleaning up the stuff I no longer need. And it's like,
because it's a lot easier to do that than wake up and go, shit, I got a whole sink full of dishes.
And everything is stuck onto it, and it's now concrete.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, now I have to do dishes while I make breakfast and make my coffee and get ready for work and pack my lunch. And it's like, man, I should have just done the dishes last night.
Yeah,
I should have cleaned out the French presses last night. So I'm not doing it.
I got time right now. I'm vacuuming. I got time right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to dust a little bit. I got time right now. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
What's up, boys? How are you?
Hey, Shannon, what's happening?
What's up?
Sorry, I clicked on the old stream and I was sitting there like waiting. And I looked up in the corner, it said live had ended. I was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh shit, I hit the wrong link.
Shannon, where are you coming in from? We're talking about keeping it light. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Rockport, Texas, right on the coast. We're 30 minutes north of Corpus Christi.
Nice. How's the weather down there?
81 degrees.
How many?
81.
81.
81. Wow.
About
Bring it up
85,
today.
90% humidity. It's great.
Sounds okay.
Today was 83 as a high.
All right.
We're 70 right now.
So Shannon, we're talking about keeping it light here, and we've talked with you ever since you took this journey. So I don't know, you don't know Shannon. He and his wife, has it been a year yet?
It's been over.
It's been over a year now.
Over a year, they decided to buy an RV and hit the road.
I would love to do the same thing, but with a Harley.
With a Harley.
There you go.
Okay.
Do you fit your kids on the Harley?
I can't say the F word, but them kids.
I've met a lot of people on the road that they have toy haulers that bring the Harleys, and wherever they go, they just blast out on that thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not in that tax bracket, so
Yeah, right.
No,
I
that's
work
been
for a
great.
small distillery.
Hey, I'm
Good for
jobless.
you.
So what do you want to do about it?
But for you, Shannon, I mean, with what we're talking about, keeping it light, I mean, I know we've talked about it with you before, and you and I have had conversations. I mean, it's not always easy doing, like everyone says, oh, that's the dream, right? Is doing this RV adventure, and you're trying to work when you can. Your wife's working as well while doing this adventure.
Yeah.
The stress level, I know it's gotten to you at times.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be just honest with you. In the first 6 weeks we took off, we went straight up to Michigan, all the way up to the UP. We spent 3 weeks up in the UP, and we paid for 3 weeks in advance in this huge RV park up there outside of Munising, Upper Peninsula. It's right outside of Painted Picture Rocks. Beautiful area. We got there in this huge RV park. Now, granted, it was pre-season, but it was us and maybe 12 other RVs in this whole park. And we were on the very back, so it was so isolated. And when I went from a job that where I talk to people every day, I'm around my friends every day, to being isolated, I was losing my freaking mind. Like,
Yeah.
it was rough, man. It took a while for me to settle into it because I was so used to working every day, and I could come over, hang out, come up to the shop, hang out, and I couldn't do that. So it was brutal. It was brutal at first.
So what'd you do? How do you keep it light?
About 2 weeks in, and I know she could feel I was getting very antsy and frustrated, and I wasn't saying much because I just was trying to figure it out. And then I finally just had that conversation, like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I'm feeling. She was like, I get it. She's like, just take your time, figure it out. And if you want to do this, we'll go back home. No big deal. So I took the time to figure it out. And yeah, it's been awesome ever since.
I think that conversation, like I was just saying before, I think before you got on here, is you have to have the conversation with the other party or with yourself, because if you don't, I mean, you're talking about dishes piling up, or like the mountain out of a molehill. It happens if you don't address it, right? If you're having that, I think you said anxiety, right?
Yeah.
It builds up, and it could be something so small that all you want to do, but sometimes I feel like it is almost, and not everyone gets this, but it cripples you even more, because now if you didn't do that task, or if you didn't, now you got another task you have to do on top of that. Now all of a sudden that list is becoming bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're kind of in that quicksand or in that avalanche where it's just like you're letting things pile up. Now it is literally becoming a mountain, because you're not just doing the one thing, but now you have to do 2 things and 3 things and 4 things. But I mean, with you, with those feelings that you were having, it's like you hear that from a lot of like retired people too, as they retire, and it's like everyone's like, oh man, must be nice. And you hear it, like they're bored. I'm not even doing the hobbies because now I'm on like a fixed income or whatever it is. And I thought it'd be great, but I can't do what I wanted to do because I don't have just this. People like had this. Sometimes I think people have this idea that like what you're doing with the RV, living is just so easy. It's like you still have bills to pay. You still, you have to occupy your time. When you get people retire, and it's like everyone's like, oh, that must be nice because you have like you can do whatever you want. You can travel the world. And like, so I'm retired. I'm not like uber wealthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Gas
I don't have
prices
to
are a
work.
bitch.
Yeah.
Diesel's a
Yeah,
bitch.
I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. We built up a little nest egg to do this, but I was stressed out because I didn't walk away. I stepped away from my career for a bit, where I was building this nice career and things were great. Then the stress levels of that, I was kind of feeling shitty about leaving that for a minute. And then we get out, then you're stressing about breakdowns on the motorhome and this, that, and the other. Like there's all these other stressors that come into play once you start this lifestyle. Like this thing breaks down. It's not cheap to fix, you know what I mean?
No.
I can do a lot myself, but there's some things I can't, and that's the expensive shit.
Well, and Raid actually asked a question for you. How's
Yep.
reality versus the expectation for you guys?
If we exclude the first 6 weeks, it's met every expectation.
Well, that's good.
That's cool. I like that.
Like just traveling and seeing all the different things and all the different states, and I mean
What
the
are
shit
the
we've
kids
seen and done.
Kids are all like, I love that for you.
I love
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. No, it's actually
No cap.
probably exceeded it, because you have these grand like pit things in your mind and you want to do, and you got to be mindful. Like you were on a budget, of course, and you got to be
Yeah.
mindful of that. But we've still been able to do a lot of shit free or for very cheap.
That's really
We had a memberships called Harvest Host, allows you to travel, and as you travel, you can stay at these places for a night, sometimes two. And they're anywhere from wineries, breweries, you name it, any kind of farm. We stayed at a buffalo farm. We stayed at horse farms. We stayed at a bunch of wineries up through Michigan. We had some breweries in Michigan. I mean, it's just incredible. It's been incredible.
That's good. What do you guys do when you find yourself in those situations that we're talking about? Like, what do you do to kind of reset or get yourself out of that?
I get out of the house.
Okay.
And I'm not one, and Joe's been a part of this, where it's like I'll get into my own head. I will overstress myself, I'll overwork myself, and I have flat out said to Joe, I just put in a sick day because I'm taking a mental health day. And it's like just recognizing that it's okay for me to need that moment in time to step back, step away, and go, all right, I'm not going to work today. I'm moving everything I have and splitting it up through the rest of the week. I am going to go outside. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to go ride my bike. I'm going to load my kayak up on the truck. I am going to get out of the house, and I am going to go do something for me because I deserve it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can schedule that too, right?
If I don't do that, my counselor is in for a hell of an event the next time we sit down and talk.
We bring that up too, jokingly, but even having that, like realizing that sometimes you need to talk to someone, right?
Oh yeah, no, I bring up counseling, jokingly, because you cover trauma with comedy.
Right.
There it is again.
Some of the best comedy.
But no, seriously, I'm an advocate for mental health, not just like men. You see men's mental health and all. I'm an advocate for mental health in general. Just people taking care of yourself. I'm not afraid to cry about something.
Mm-hmm.
I am not afraid to say that I can't handle something on my own. And I'm not ashamed of, being someone who says, yeah, I have a counselor. I mean, I was meeting him once a week for a long time. I'm meeting him twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm happy that I have that kind of person in my life.
It's good to have
someone with a neutral perspective. I mean, the guys know me for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I asked him one day, I go, out of all the people that you've helped, I go, where do I land on your scale of fucked up?
Oh, geez.
And he goes, honestly,
on a scale of 1 to 10.
He goes, out of all the years I've been doing this, and he goes, I do this because I want to see people get better. I want to see people, and I want to be a part of people's journey. He goes, but you are absolutely interesting. He goes, every single He goes, you got some shit, man. But every single one of these counseling appointments that I see your name on my schedule, I look forward to it because it's just like, he goes, you are unhinged, but you're unhinged in this way where it's like it works for your life and you just do it. He goes,
There
and
you go.
you know, there are times where he said, there are times where I envy you because you're just like, F it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And you just do it. And if it has a repercussion, you handle it and you deal with it.
That's good.
It's like that door where one of the hinges is a little bit off, and so in order to shut the door, you got to like lift up on it and then push it in. It's like,
Oh, you gotta kick this door closed. And there are a few doors in this house that you do not want to open.
Good to know.
Yeah, for me, it was like I went, that's the backstory. So I kind of made a point to never like bottle shit up ever again. And I didn't. But when I started this trip, I fell back into my old pattern of bottling that shit up. And I didn't want to disappoint her because I know she was so excited to go on this trip and do this. And it was just so hard figuring it out because I didn't realize how dependent I was on my community of friends. Like that's how I blew off my steam, was going out and meeting all my boys and having a cigar, a little drink. It took me a while to figure out that I'm okay without it. You know what I mean? I was okay.
You got to find a new way to be okay without it.
Absolutely. And it took a while to figure it out, but once we got to Montana, I kind of settled in and things have been great ever since.
Pour one more, light up another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me.
Too.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, I love being around people. I just love the interactions and the conversations and all that good stuff. But it wasn't until I let it all out to her and just poured it out. Like, she had no judgment, She was like, "Hey, if this ain't working, it's not working. We'll go back and figure it out." I'm like,
Yeah.
Let's just keep pushing forward. We'll figure it out.
No, it's good. And Mike, who's been on the show before, he made a comment here. You have to keep it light. He travels 6 states for work. He has 4 kids, one in a different state and one with special needs. To juggle all of it, I couldn't do it if I didn't keep it light and simple. Things aren't always simple, right? They're not always light. This isn't necessarily saying shrug off the important things going on. It's just a matter of you want to try to control the things you can control, and in some way, I don't want to say you always have to just give up entirely on everything you can't control, but treat everything with a little bit of perspective, I'd say, the best you can, because I've been there. I know everyone, the 4 of us that are talking on here, everyone listening, obviously Mike Dieter put that out there as, life is certainly not always fair. Sometimes it feels like it's more unfair than not. And I think that some of these things that that's why I asked, like, what do you do to kind of reset? Nate, how about you?
I mean, yeah, I'm guilty of being one of those guys, that bottle shit in,
Mm-hmm.
and then like all of a sudden just, eventually it has too much of a negative impact and just kind of weighing shit down to where then when it finally comes out, and it's like opening that pressure valve, and
Mm-hmm.
like you go, day after day, week after week. You all right? Yep, fine. Yep, fine. Everything's good. And then finally one day you're like, you know what? Things aren't fine. And
here we go.
get
your pad of paper out because this one's going to be entertaining.
Sounds like my bi-weekly meetings with my counselor.
There you go.
You probably got your own filing cabinet at this point. But no, I mean, but like it's one of those things where when you finally have that person be able to actually say and be open with like what all's going on, like, like even that other person who may not have any vested interest in what's going on other than being your friend, like sometimes they can sit there and go, holy shit, like I didn't realize this is what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, like this is where I'm at. And it's like, shit, like, how come you haven't said anything before? And it's like, well, sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes I think we feel guilty if we burden other people with our problems.
So there's sometimes that, yeah.
But sometimes we also have to realize, like, there are people in our lives that sometimes that's what they're there for.
And also, like, I was talking about this with a friend of mine earlier. Sometimes, you'll spill something out, and people are like, well, why didn't you say something sooner? And some people cope with things and manage through things and unpack things in different ways. Like,
it's good.
I'll have friends, and sometimes, a lot of the time, I forget that people do need different things in situations. I had a friend reach out, and they're like, I'm just distancing myself right now, and I'm feeling bad about stuff, and I just feel like I'm shutting down. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, I was like, I don't know what to say. And they're like, maybe ask like how I'm doing, what the problem is. And I'm like, oh, that's right. You're not like me, where I just want everybody to shut up and go away so I can manage my own shit.
Right.
And yeah, like I always, I treat people the way I want to be treated. And sometimes that's a great thing to do. And sometimes that's not a great thing to do.
Depends on how you want to be treated. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, so for me, like when I am in a moment, when I'm in a really bad moment, I want everybody to shut up and go away.
You can
And
cope with things for so long.
Let me manage you, because you adding a bunch to me and then putting a hyper focus on me is only going to cause me anxiety and make me feel like crap.
Yeah. I think that's part of like, how you handle that type of communication, right?
Did I mention I was an only child?
No, if we
Okay,
want to dive down that road here.
No, we're keeping it light
I
tonight.
was getting ready to say it. Like,
That immediately tells you kind of why I handle things the way I
No, I think it does. I mean, how you're brought up, obviously that has a big impact on how, you're socialized as you grow up, being an only child. If you have siblings, which sibling are you in the, what's the age differences there? What are the parents like? All that stuff, where you went to school. I think a lot of that. I am a firm believer that, there is some nature, but nurture, I think, really, really takes the steering wheel as you're growing up. There's a lot of that nature versus nurture, but I think nurture, or your socialization as you grow, is very much more of the steering wheel versus how you're wired.
Mm-hmm.
But they both obviously play a big impact on that. I think the biggest thing is like you were saying, sometimes you do need a moment. And part of that, and not trying to play the counselor or anything like that, but sometimes the only missing part when you're struggling with something and you can't do what we're talking about, keeping it light, and you're struggling, you're bottling something up, saying that to the other party or communicating that just in general. Like when you're saying, Wes, with work, you're like, mental health day is unfortunately, I think, used way too much now. It's like jargon in the last like 4 years, but there is a reality behind it that it was founded in. But being able to take a day off, if you can schedule it and not, not just call off that day. Not you, but I mean, some people are just like, oh, I woke up.
I felt personally attacked there for a second.
No, like that. But like it was almost overused, I think, in our culture now, where it's like, I woke up, I just didn't feel like working today. It's like that's not a mental health day.
I don't feel like it. I need to say.
I'd rather go. It's a nice day out. I'd rather be outside. It's like, yeah, so would I. You know what I mean? Like if I had to choose, like it's a beautiful day, I'd rather go do that.
Yeah.
But
I've had mental health days where it was gorgeous outside and I didn't leave my house.
Right. That's the difference, right?
But instead I sat upstairs and I read books and I took time to do other things. I never left my house, and it was a legit like I can't people today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And in this industry, all I can do every day is people.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're both retail.
I have
Steve
people
and I.
every single day.
Yeah. For me, go ahead, Steve. No, I was just saying, for me, once I realized that I was kind of boohooing there for a while, like, oh, woe is me. But then I was like, what the fuck? I'm out doing something that not a lot of people get to do, fucking enjoy it. Just fucking enjoy it. Like, just take it all in. Take it in for whatever it is, whatever it's going to be. And when I finally adopted that attitude, it's been so great. I enjoy everything we do, everywhere we go. It's a new setting, a new scenery, new people. It's yeah. Once I changed my mindset, it changed everything.
Do everything you do authentically. That's my big thing, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you're not having a good day, say you're stressed about your job responsibilities, your family responsibilities, the financial issues are creeping up on you, which is super common these days, especially. Address it, right? Don't just let it beat you up. I think it's you want to be able to authentically be pissed about something, just so that you can also authentically be very pleased doing something that you enjoy. You know, take the good with the bad is how a lot of people will say it. I look at it as don't just do things because, oh, this will make me feel better. And it's like, will it though? Because you haven't, like those dishes in the sink, have you actually addressed being pissed or being stressed about something?
Right.
Because it's I'm not the greatest at this, but that's something that I'm continually trying to work on is you stand up for yourself no matter what it is. Right.
Yeah.
So that's not just retaliating and just being like, I quit, or I'm going to break up with you, or I'm going to, not talk, like take a moment, but I'm not going to talk to anyone. I'm done reaching out to any of my friends because they're not reaching out to me. I'm not going to talk to my family because they're not, they're pissing me off. For a moment, you can address that and then really take that head on. But that's because it does matter to you. I think there's a way that some people will let the bad, and they're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not, no, I'm gonna have to focus on the good. I'm gonna focus on the good. It's like, no, first focus on whatever it is. Focus on the good if that's what's happening. Don't take it for granted. But also don't like kind of shove under the rug here. Oh yeah, these things aren't that bad, but it'll be okay. It'll be okay. You can say that, but you still have to address it because it's not going to go away.
Oh, 100%.
What's that?
What do you do for work?
I sell cigars.
Okay, yeah. So
I'm authentically pissed about diesel
you gonna get your
prices.
license to be a counselor?
Oh, he does that with me every week when the camera goes off.
Not every week.
Some
weeks.
Yeah, some weeks it's like, hey, Kristen wants me to go inside. I'm like, all right. Wait till next week.
That'll be tonight. She's got early calls tomorrow.
So when you're gonna be a certified counselor? Because I mean, honestly, you have the voice for it.
Oh yeah. That's what part.
A lot of situations are like in the moment situations where you gotta think about is it life or death? Is it going to ruin your day if this happens? If you got to take every situation like what we're doing, wherever you go. Like, am I going to get pissed off if I can't find an RV park and I got to go to my third option? Shit like it hasn't been that deep for us as we've traveled. It's just been dumb things. Like we were headed to Montana and we were traveling through Iowa and we got cut off in this traffic in Iowa. No big deal. I had to jam on the brakes. We're towing my wife's truck behind us. And I felt this big, like when I let off the brakes, I felt this big pull, like, damn, that felt weird, but whatever. We kept going. We got into Montana. No, sorry, South Dakota. We stopped to get fuel and I was doing my walk around check. So I was checking tires, checking this. I got back, started checking her truck and her bumper was hanging half off her truck.
Oh, geez.
Like it was fucking hanging on by threads. So, in that situation, you're like, what do you do? Like, holy shit. And she was in there getting some snacks or something. She came out. I was like, babe, I gotta show you something. Like, this is not good. And she walked around to the back of the RV and looked at her truck and her jaw hit the ground. She's like, okay, we'll figure it out. So I unhooked it. I took my ratchet straps. I ratcheted it back up so it would stay on. I was like, you got to drive it to the next spot. It was only like 30, 40 miles down the road. We were going to a harvest host at this horse farm. And she was like, hey, horse farms, they always got to fix shit. Maybe they got somebody can weld it. It's like, yeah, you're right. So we get there. The owner comes out, greets us. and we're talking. I was like, "You wouldn't happen to know a welder?" He was like, "Fuck yeah, I do." Gives me this number. He's like, "This is the guy that does all my work. Call him at 7:30 in the morning." I said, "All right." Got up the next morning, called him. He said, "Yeah, bring your truck down." Took it to him. Now I'm thinking this is going to be like $800,000 repair, right? This is crazy. He's looking at it. I was like, just give me a ballpark, what you think it's going to cost, and we'll get the money
5
out.
to
We'll do
800,000.
No,
500,
5 to
800.
8
Hey, what kind of truck is this?
no,
to 1,000.
to 1,000. It's welding, it's fabrication, it's the whole nine. He looks at, he's like, $200. I said, bro, seriously? He's like, yeah, this ain't shit. So he gets to working on it, cuts it off, starts building all this shit. His buddy shows up, he hops on it. They fix it all up, dude. You could hang this thing from a bridge right now, from the front bumper.
Don't do it.
And I was
Depends
like,
on
I
the
know,
bridge. Some can't even
Yeah.
handle a cargo ship.
Right?
Oh, easy.
Too soon.
No, that was great. That was great.
Let's talk about
And
current
if-
events next.
And he finished it all up, and I looked, and I was like, look, I know you put some work in this. I was like, what do you think? He was like, I said $200. I said, oh, my God. I handed him 200 cash. He's like, all right, man, have a great day. Like, you meet people out that take care of you on this drive.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was incredible.
There's something to be
Like-
said about community.
Real
Yeah.
quick though, Shannon, what we're talking about there is like, again, the real key factor of what I heard from that. There are a lot of people that would have ratcheted that back up, right? And you would have waited and you would have waited. But when you said something, when we pulled into that horse farm, you brought it up.
Yeah.
Where there's I think there's so many people that would have pulled in, and it would have been between you and your wife. You wouldn't have brought it up to anyone at the farm, the RV park that you were at. You would have just been like, all right, so we're just going to deal with this when we get to like a big city, when we get back home, when we get, which you guys are rolling home. But, it's the fact that you actually address the problem. You when you pulled in, you're like, hey, man, do you know anyone that could possibly take care of this? Not knowing, I mean, easily, probably the majority of the time, they're like, I mean, there's a auto body shop, at the next town or whatever. But the fact you said something, which again, I think more people than most people would say nothing. You guys would have pulled in, it would have stayed internal between you and your wife, and you guys would have been stewing on it, and you would have been, and her would have been like, this is going to cost a fortune. This is going to cost a fortune. All right, well, we just won't use it for a while. You know what I mean? Or we'll just ratchet it up there. I'll try to secure it the best I can.
Letting
and
the
we'll
fear
just
of the unknown
fear of the unknown. You're just like
manage your situation for you.
And the first thing you did when you pulled in, you're like, hey man, check this out. I got my car, got busted up. Like, you know anyone that can help me out? I'm like, yep, absolutely. And you're like, oh, cool.
Done.
Because you brought it up. You addressed the problem.
I think part of that is like my upbringing. I was raised by hillbillies, so it was always the good boy network. And, you get to these cattle ranchers and farmers, they always have the good boy network. So I was just taking a shot in the dark, like, hey, man, like, what do you think? He's like, oh, yeah, my boy down the road here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, enough said.
Now, you had said something earlier. You're like, because you were talking about like problems just having one right after the other. Have you ever had a day where like it's like you do everything you can to like make it through a hard day, and the universe is just like, nope, not today. Like, you can keep trying, but not today. I had one of those a few weeks back, probably been about a month now, and it was like I hope I never have this situation happen again. I didn't even know it was something that I have to deal with in my lifetime. But like, I was work day. I'm like, all right, I got to find stuff for this event I have going on tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get out there, got to get stuff. Could not find these little mini shot glasses that I needed for this event. I pulled into the Target and I'm on the phone. I can't remember who I was on the phone with. I'm on the phone, pulled into a parking spot at Target on Sawmill Road.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I get off the phone, I get out of my car and this guy's like trying to pull in and he stops halfway in the parking spot. He lays on his horn. And I'm like, I'm in a mood.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm trying to do my best to get through that. And at that moment, I have a grown man in a full-size car blowing his horn at me, cussing and screaming at me and pointing at me. And I'm like, I just gave up. I'm like, what do you want from me? And I called him a few names.
Mhm.
And he throws his car in park. He gets out. He goes, you picked the wrong MFer today. And I was like, here we go.
I was like, I didn't pick anybody.
I'm like, yeah, I picked to get out of my car. And assessing the situation, I praise myself on my situational awareness.
Good.
I noticed that he's trying to cut off somebody else that was trying to get in the parking spot too.
Okay.
He gets out of his car. He walks up to me like fast paced, and he's like leaning in like he's gonna headbutt me.
Jesus.
And I'm like, not today, Satan. And I push him backwards, and like I just pushed like to get him out of my dance space.
Mhm.
And he took one step back, got on his, his planted his foot. He comes back and he hits me right here,
Wow.
like right in the side of the cheek, just below the eye. And I'm like, buddy, you should have hit me maybe an inch up and hit the button and knocked me out. Because now I'm upset.
Upset.
Okay.
And most of the time, I want to de-escalate any situations. I haven't.
Yeah, that's the best way to handle it, right?
I
We all
haven't
know
been
He's
that.
great at that.
But this guy, he got me, and I hit him back
Oof.
once. I hit him one time because from him getting out of his car to when he hit me to when I hit him, I never lost eye contact with his face.
Okay.
He didn't hit the artist,
Uh-huh.
but I hit him. I hit him, and I hit him right at the bottom of his nose across this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I split his lip in half, and I broke a couple of his teeth.
Oof. Good shot.
And he like stumbles back, kind of falls onto his car, looks at me. I see what I've done, and I'm like, oof. He gets in, he covers his face, starts bleeding,
Oh.
gets in his car, and I'm like, cool, I'm going to get shot. This is a great day. He gets in his car, shuts the door, throws it in reverse, takes off.
Oh.
I immediately call the cops. They come out within about 15, 20 minutes, something like that. They are unamused about the situation. And I'm like, I just don't want somebody to press charges on me
Sure.
because I know what I just did.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, did you get a license plate number? No. Okay, well, you're too far out in the parking lot. I doubt Target's cameras up front, but we could at least see that what you said happened. We'll corroborate your story via the cameras, and then we'll call around to the hospitals and see if anybody with that injury checked in. They found the guy at Dublin Methodist Hospital, and he immediately wanted to press charges. And they're like, we're not going to do that. But the whole situation, while they're talking to me, the one cop goes, I mean, you're fine. It sounds like he got what he deserved.
Hmm.
And I'm like, but why did this have to be my day? And it was just like that. It's just, those kind of days are hard to work through.
Yeah, that's not a typical day. Shouldn't be, hopefully.
Right. But and it's the same thing. Like, like, okay, my car needs a bunch of work. And then I go home and my faucet breaks. And it's like those kind of situations can add up to the same feeling as that one escalated situation that happened in that one day where nothing would go right.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I was happy that I did the event that night. The event didn't not have the turnout that they thought it was going to have.
Okay.
It also wasn't a ticketed event, so it was kind of a show up and
Kind of a bust.
yeah, it was fine. But it's just like that whole day. I'm like, why did that have to happen?
I don't think it doesn't have to happen with that situation. It's one of those things you want to say, like you said, you want to de-escalate the situation at all times, but you're having a day, they caught you on the wrong day. That person's obviously having a bad day, or they're just,
he had some other stuff going on.
Yeah, there's definitely something behind the curtain there, but there's something behind your curtain too. It's funny. It's almost like the best response to do is, and again, I'm not saying I would have handled it this way, but if I was having a fucking bad day, it's really easy just to be like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Like kind of like you had a little bit, it kind of caught you off guard, but then like he got in your space, so you shoved him, then he hit you, and then you hit him, and it's like, all right, so who's in the wrong here? Whose fault is this? You know what I mean? Who hit first? Over communicating sometimes, I think, would be the best way to de-escalate it. Not, again, this is hindsight and just listening to your story. If you would have gotten out of the car and you're like, look, man, I don't have time to deal with this. I get it. You're pissed. And you just rattle off your shit, what you just said, like, I'm having a bad day. My faucet broke, like this happened, my car's having problems, and now I got to deal with you fucking honking me about a fucking parking spot. Find another one. I don't have time for you today. And I'm pretty sure the response is, you can't predict it, but if you rattle off all that shit and it's like, you want the parking spot so fucking bad, fine, take it. Let me back out and stop everyone else so you can have this fucking parking spot.
I was in a spot. He was trying to take an open spot.
Well, I don't know, but I'm just saying, you just over communicate and be like,
Yeah.
I don't know what your fucking problem is, but I got bigger problems than you right now. So you can go fuck yourself, find another parking spot, or let me get out of the way. But I don't want to deal with you. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like you are nobody to me, and you're going to stay nobody to me. If you want to talk about something, I got 2 minutes. Let's talk about how you're.
I just realized if he saw him mad, he'd be really scared.
Oh, he is when he's mad. Oh yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, I'm not even mad at this guy. I'm just like,
But
what's your deal? Like, I mean, I'm not giving you any time in my life.
You'd have hit him.
I've never hit anyone.
What?
Not once.
Steve's broken
You've never
up.
thrown boxing gloves on with your friends and.
I mean, maybe as kids, but no. I'm more breaking, like Nate knows. I'm
Steve's
more
got
like
great
breaking
stories
up
about breaking up
fights.
fights.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's typically me.
Yeah. But I don't know how I'd react in that situation if I had all that shit going on my day, and obviously that guy had shit going on his day. So it's like, I don't know. You almost have to, like I said, if you over communicate and just not insult the guy, but it's just like, dude, I don't have time for you.
I love the one of the officers called me. He goes, told me they found him, and he goes, I'm glad I saw the video because I would have never believed you just hit him one time.
That's like a compliment.
Steve, all you gotta do is give him your famous line.
What's that?
That's a big boy right there.
Go fuck
You
yourself
still see
and
me,
keep
like-
walking.
Just keep walking. Oh yeah, but then he's gonna like ding up my car as soon as I walk away.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I got a good story for you, Nate. We were golfing today, and we're in Texas, so there's some big ass rattlesnakes down here.
Mhm.
We were on hole 18, teed off, kind of went over to the edge of the grass in the woods. So I'm walking over there, and I take my
That's a
club,
lost
and
ball.
it wasn't in. It was like right on the edge. So I was like hitting the grass to make sure there was no snake there. So I was pulling it out of the tall grass, and when I did that, this fucking snake lit up.
Nope.
It was the loudest rattle I've ever heard in my life. I'll send you the photo.
Yeah.
I looked in there, and this fucking snake, it was about 5 feet long, curled up. It was every bit of. It was like this fucking round.
That's why I live where the air hurts my face.
I've never been so scared. I almost shit myself. It was insane. It was insane.
That's
I
why I
stepped
said
back.
if I was playing a golf course in Texas and I hit one out there, it's like, well, it's not in the trees, but it's too damn close.
Dude, it was.
I'm taking a provisional. I'm gonna drop
We're
it.
talking about keeping it light, brother.
That's
Almost.
the thing. That guy that was pulling in that parking spot, he thought he was that rattlesnake or whatever that snake was.
Yeah.
And that snake you can't really communicate with. That's where you're just like, all right, man, take the spot. You know what I mean?
No, sir.
But yeah, like, dude, I just want my fucking ball. Like, let's not make this a bigger deal. All I want is that ball that you're right by. Like, that's it. But you can't communicate
Dude,
with that.
the
people are
the
different.
dump of adrenaline I had was insane. I was.
That's why you thought you were gonna shit yourself. Was all
Did
that.
did a
Oh my
snake hit me with a golf club that day?
No, it was
Too close.
from where I was to where the snake was probably about 68 feet. He was far enough away, but hell no. Hell to the no.
It's funny you say this, and I think let's kind of not to cut this too short, but I do want to round out part 2 here a little bit. The situation you brought up, and your comment was just me talking, is like, would you say like you'd be scary if I was mad? That's the whole thing, is that you're embracing that. What we were talking about earlier is you embrace that kind of the suck right there. Is if you come at that person, he's pissed off about this parking spot, and you come at him, and who knows how it would end if you just rattled off how your day was going to this guy. He might be like, oh shit, sorry, because you come at him, and you're like, oh, you're mad? about a parking spot, let me tell you what I'm mad about. And you express your anger, not at him, but just about your day.
I shit my pants 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
Like, did you do that today?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, all right, man. All right, fine. I mean, people do, not everyone anymore, especially, but like, they
I'll
might be
do
like,
it right now if you come close enough to me.
like, I don't want that poop
No,
pants
just take
on
off
me.
your pants because no one wants to find you naked.
That's true.
You know, I almost made that comment, but I was waiting. I was waiting for you to say it, to be honest. Guy gets out of the car, comes up to the fight, you just pull your pants down.
Let's
He's
go.
like, why, dude?
Yeah. That is
Exactly.
that's a
This
good
whole
way
situation
to,
is
it's a
just
good way to de-escalate
not
it.
okay.
Shannon, how do you let's kind of round it out with you. Like, how do you keep things light? I mean, because like that's a bad day that Wes was talking about, but you know, it doesn't have to be piling up. It's just literally whether you're in a rut, whether you just realize you haven't been doing what you enjoy, because I think that's more common than anything, just because of life responsibilities, whether it be job, family, your own personal health, all that stuff. It's really easy to just kind of turtle up or just stay to yourself and just be like, you know, I'm just gonna roll with this. This is the way things are, and things just pile up because you're doing it. I mean, I think that is a very voluntary action to kind of move yourself back. Said a lot of times when that hand is in your face and now you can't focus on with a problem or everything else beyond it. You really have to just be able to move that away. And I think that's part of this too, is that when you are just so trying to focus on the issues at hand, and sometimes avoidance is a real easy way to handle it, because they're kind of like, oh, I'll just remove the hand. And then it's like, oh, no, it's back because nothing changed. But what are
Hands
your
only
like
5 feet farther? Yeah.
Yeah, what's your best practices there?
So I'll just recap. This is for Ray and whoever else is listening. But you know, the first part I already talked about, everything was messed up. Second part, you know, we had amazing times. Montana, Wyoming. We were in Yellowstone 6-7 times. Bighorn Mountain. We did travel that. We spent 2 months traveling through New Mexico.
Yeah,
We
the
did the
hot air balloon
balloon
festival. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. We did the solar eclipse there when that one happened. It's just been a bunch of amazing experiences. Once I got over that part, my biggest stressors were the RV, keeping it on the road, making sure nothing happens, fixing things. And now we're here in Rockport, and we've been here since December, about a week before Christmas. And I was not stressing when we got here, but I was like, man, I'm starting to get bored. We were here December, January, February. And I ended up jumping in a barbershop here. So I'm working in a barbershop while I'm here, making a couple of dollars, some fun money. And the stressors, man, you know, the bills, like you said, the bills are always coming. We don't have a lot of them, but we still have to pay them. We're on a budget. And maybe this is little thing for you, Steve. First of all, congratulations. I already told you last week, but
thank you, brother.
Congrats, brother. This is awesome for you. But communication with my wife has been everything. We talk about everything. We don't let the heavy shit get heavy. We get to the heavy shit before it gets heavy. Let's put it that way. And we knock it out. We talk about it. We got to argue about it. We'll argue about it for a minute, and then we let it go. We don't hold on to it. And that's been the greatest thing I can honestly say. It's been my partner in this whole journey is we don't let the stressors stress that much.
I love that.
We get to a point it's stressful, but we talk about it and then we de-stress it.
I'm honest.
Yeah, it's taking a lot of work. We love each other. Sometimes we look at each other like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see you. But and then we come back later on like, baby, I love you.
Honey, I love you, but I don't got to like you right now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that scene from Yellowstone. Like, I ain't got the energy for you today. Like,
exactly. That's exactly right.
Come back home, but fuck you.
Because we're in a 40-foot motorhome. It's not very big. There's not a lot of space in there. but we find ways to figure it out and give each other space. And
There's a maximum of 40-foot distance right there.
yeah, and we just keep it light, man. And things can get heavy, but we talk about it, and we don't let it gets heavy, but we don't let it get too heavy. I guess that's
I
the
like
best
that.
way to put it.
Cool.
So yeah. And
Wes,
for
how about
you,
you?
Steve, just
Oh yeah.
as you move forward with this fiance thing and all that, just listen, talk to each other. That's the biggest key, brother. Is
So I'm gonna chime in because of what I'm thinking about what you're saying there, and I'll do my closing remarks here. As you were talking about that, not letting things get too heavy, and I'm gonna do this, and I don't know if Ray's still listening. He'll probably roll his eyes because I'm gonna look at this as that communication thing, right? You're talking about with relationships and even with yourself, even like the daily chores, and I'm not the best at it either, but I look at it as using the terminology almost as a metaphor, but it's the same thing, right? The way you keep things light is to keep putting the reps in. So the communication you're talking about right there, it is like working out or exercising. If you don't continue to use the best practices, you don't keep putting the reps in, you don't talk about everything, you don't communicate almost with yourself in the mirror. If you're not addressing things on the regular basis, things are always like every little thing is going to be this huge obstacle because it's going to be too heavy for you to be able to handle because you don't know how to do it. It's like study skills, and it's like again, like walking, running, working out, lifting, any of that stuff is that, to keep things like lightweight is not because of the weight on it. It's what you're able to lift because you keep getting stronger at that. You're putting the reps in, you're continuing to work on those skills so that when something heavy does come, and it weighs you down, it's trying to weigh you down and try to break you, you've put the work in on a regular basis so that then you can lift that off of your shoulders. You can carry the weight because you know how to communicate, you know how to express yourself, you know yourself well enough that this is not a surprise to you. You're prepared for it. Yeah. Sometimes things will still break you or knock you down, but at the very least, you can take a step back and you're like, all right, I'm going to take another hit. I'm going to go another rep. I'm going to take another shot at this. Because you got that hunger in you that you want things to be good. Keeping it light is like, oh, let's keep things like carefree and all this stuff. No, I mean, way you were talking right there, it changed my mentality of this conversation where it's like the best way to make things feel light in life and enjoy everything is that when the bad things or the hard things really come in and they're trying to weigh you down and before you, it doesn't even feel heavy anymore because you can handle most issues easier because everyday life you've put the work in. You're not just waiting, you're not letting things bottle up. You're able to communicate over the small things, so when the big things come on, you use those skills to be able to address that. So no matter how heavy the weight is, it feels lighter because you've put the reps in, you've put the work in, and it takes a lot to stay on that. To stay working out, to stay healthy, to going back to like the exercise thing. You don't just walk back in to a gym and be able to lift the same amount of weight that you did years ago because you stopped putting the work in. If things are going so well for you all the time and you haven't been putting the work in and everything is so easy, that is like lifting light weights. And then when you're like, oh, let's try to lift this weight, I can't lift it. I look at the same way you're talking about with conversations and things like that. If you're not having conversations or having the smaller conversations, when the hard conversations come, you don't know how to handle it. You can't communicate.
I'll put it to you like this and I'll shut up. So your background in the moving industry, yeah, you're a strong dude. There's a lot of shit you can pick up by yourself and move a box. But there's always that one box where you need two people to move it.
Yeah, when they put a bunch of books in a dish barrel.
Exactly. And that's where you got to call your partner in to help you move it.
I like that.
So, yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah.
Wes and Nate?
Well, I think one thing, like when you're going through those days where, as Wes was talking about, where it's like just one thing after another, and like there's a bunch of negativity that just keeps piling on. I think one of the things that's helpful is to try and make that positive moment. Sometimes it may happen to you. Sometimes you have to make it happen. But I think there's a lot of instances out there where you could be having a bad day, where, you know, bad customers, bad boss, car problem, whatever it is, like bad stuff's going on. But like all of a sudden you do an event and things go great at the event, or you have good sales, or you have a great interaction with a customer, or you get that customer that comes back in and goes, "Hey, I was in a month ago and you recommended this and it turned out to be absolutely fantastic. It was a great recommendation. I loved it." Like sometimes those little things,
Small wins.
it's a small, yes, it's a small win in terms of like everything else that's gone on, but yet that one victory can change your mindset to where now you're thinking about that win and you're forgetting about all the bad things that happened earlier in the day. Because sometimes you realize, like, you know what? Yep, having a bad day, had an argument with my boss, but you know what? Tomorrow's another day. Things might be different. They may have had a day. I may have been in the mood. But like then something comes along where you just have a good interaction and something positive happened. And now the rest of your day, you know, you're sitting there, you're in a better mood. So you're sitting there finding other positive things. You're finding other better things to happen.
Yeah.
Because that one small thing had a rippling effect. And so now you're going the other direction. Instead of constantly getting weighed down by all the negative stuff, it's like, all right, now I've turned the tide just because of that one incident. It's like, okay, let's get the next best thing.
Yeah.
It can be a small wake-up call too.
Yeah.
Sometimes the smallest things can really change your day.
Yeah.
Like the end of your day and you just get to go to bed.
Sure.
Because you've been sitting on a podcast for 3 hours and you're like, I'm fucking tired.
Cool. So thanks for tuning in this week. Yeah, about 3 hours. Good call.
Oh, shit.
No, honestly, like my closing thought is, you know, sometimes it's hard to take care of yourself because you don't feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
And you need to have that subtle reminder and you need to give it to yourself. Like, I deserve a break. I deserve some time off. I deserve to do something every once in a while that makes me happy. I deserve to feed into my passions. I deserve to smile more. I deserve to feel accomplished.
Deserve some good.
I deserve to go to bed and have a full night's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I deserve this Tylenol PM tonight. You know, like it's just whatever it may be.
Don't mix with whiskey.
You're not my supervisor. Joe logged off.
He can still listen to this.
But keeping yourself in a good place is important.
Yeah.
If you are not the best you for yourself, how the fuck are you going to be the best you for everybody else around you in the moments that you need to be present for?
No, that's great. That's a great way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that was the best piece of advice I ever got as a new parent. Somebody said, you know what? It's okay to take a break. That child is going to cry in your arms the same it's going to cry for 5 to 10 minutes in their crib.
Mm-hmm.
Take a break, walk away, let it cry, regroup yourself, because if you are not the best you, you're not the best you for that child, and you're not the best you for the person that child just came out of.
True.
Which is your partner and the person that you need to support.
I like that. Yeah. It's always focusing on you.
And now that my kids can, for the most part, understand when I'm like, you need to go upstairs and go to your playroom.
Mm-hmm.
And now I take that into, you know, myself. Like,
you can't pour water from an empty cup.
You need water.
Thank you.
No, thank Jess for that one.
Even when you're in the garage, you won't comment to us. That's cute. All right, guys. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Wes, thank you so much. Guys, check out Echo Spirits. Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Shannon, thank you very much. Everyone out there, thank you very much. Enjoy
Thanks
your
for
week.
having me, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And tune in next week. I don't know if we have a guest next week. Can't remember.
I'll come back, wear a pink shirt, and we can try other whiskeys from different states.
Why's it got to be a pink shirt?
Because you have a pink shirt on.
I feel like you're trying to-
I'm
we have
drinking
no.
Oh yeah, Canal's
I'm
on.
drinking
Actually.
I'm drinking an Eagle Rare single barrel pick here from 2019.
Nice.
I can
Way to flex.
I can send up to you.
Yeah,
I can send the rest to you.
next time you're in town. How about you bring it?
There you go.
Yeah, next week, check us out. We got Kunal. He's with Aganorsa Leaf. Tinder Box at Easton on May 17th has an event with Fido to Friday night, 6 p.m., $40. You're going to get a couple of Fumas like we talked about, which are the unique, just the tobaccos, as well as the cigar that contains those tobaccos, an Anniversario blend from them, as well as you're going to get 4 samples of different Whistle Pig whiskeys. So check that out. Tinderbox at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. If you guys are local, definitely grab a ticket, grab a spot before it's too late. Contact Tinderbox at Easton or stop by the shop. Shannon, sorry you're out of town for that one.
I'll be there. Fuck off.
All right. Cheers, guys. Happy Wisconsin Day.
Cheers.